Hello, this is Peter Poppleton from the internet. I would just like to congratulate you really on reaching the 400th episode of the podcast. What the fucking hell is a podcast? If anybody tries to cast my pods like in plaster of Paris or something like that, I will smack them right in the tit. It's what? It's like a radio. Right, I get it now. I see. It's like a radio show. 400 episodes on chuffing gaming. Chuffing hell. Look, I don't know how you've got there. Quite what you can say about chuffing Space Invaders, Pac-Man and Horace Goes Skiing, I will never know. But either way, it sounds like quite an achievement. So well done. And here's to the next 4. Let's not get, ahead of ourselves. I'm not going to say the next 400 because let's face it, gaming is, well, I don't know what I'm talking about, do I? I'm very old. Happy 400th episode.
Hello, Andy. This is Colin. I won't be able to get in tonight. I'm sweating like a pig.
Hello, my good people. Hello. Episode 400 of the One Up Game podcast. Got an itchy nose, always the case. Middle of summer, got a snotty nose. I don't know why. It's always fine during winter, then I get ill during the summer. Anyway, episode 400. Thank you all for being here. I was going to rattle quickly through the games played this week. We've had Eddie on. We had a good chat for about 45 minutes. So that'll be on later, and we might have other surprises as well. So as always, games-inspired music. It's an album. It's available now. Buy it, stream it, all that good stuff on the Apple sort of thing on the Amazon store. And 20% of each sale will go to the Child's Play charity. So that's pretty cool. And hopefully, the more we sell, the more we can donate to this great, great charity. Also, we've got our first 100 podcasts available from audiobooksontape.com, and just go to their website, search One Up Gaming, and I'm sure it'll be up there somewhere. And £1 of each sale will go to the Diabetes UK charity. While I'm talking about stuff, we have our first 3 books available. They're all like coffee table books. They're basically like just over 8 inches by 8 inches squared, and they have screenshots and little bits of information about each game. We have the Sega Saturn, we have the PlayStation, and we have the N64. So all of these, the N64 is about 250 odd pages, the Sega Saturn is 292, and I think the PlayStation one is 294. So each one's got pages, screenshots, bits of facts, bits of information, controllers, all the other bits and bobs, the consoles, different colours, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, just go to Amazon, search for them, just put the unofficial PlayStation collection or the unofficial Sega Saturn collection or the unofficial N64 collection. So please buy them. We have a deal on at the minute. Email us at contact@oneupgaming.co.uk and just email us whichever book you want, because we can send out review copies, which is exactly the same thing, but Amazon allows us to spend like £25 to send them out instead of the £35. So email us if you want to buy one for £25. We have about 50 copies of each one to give away for the £10 reduced rate. So email us contact@oneupgaming.co.uk about that, and we'll go straight into this week's games played this week for the week of the episode 400 on this podcast, which is this week. Yeah. So, first of all, heading out, I absolutely loved the art style of this game. I thought it looked absolutely stunning, and it was one of those games where you sort of like, it's black and white, it's very noir sort of looking, and basically when you're playing it and doing the bits and bobs, you are not only doing the racing, but there's also text and dialogue and stuff like that, and there's like a management sort of simmy thing where you have to try and get through places and not allow the past to catch up with you, that kind of thing. And it's just a really nice little game. Really enjoyed it, got quite into it, so I would recommend heading out as a good little game. I think it was a fun game. Next up we have Dream Hotel Master. Now this one is very similar to the Fallout Shelter sort of experience, 2D side-on view but this is like a hotel, and you have to get people into the rooms, clean the rooms, feed them, change the rooms, that type of thing, and make profits, while the hotel, each level gets bigger and bigger and more to do. Technically speaking, it's a fun little game, it's a nice little game. I think it was Russian or some other, because like everything was in English, but certain screens as it popped through, it was written in some sort of language which I don't read, I couldn't understand. It looked very caps and shouty, so I just assumed Russian, I don't know why. But yeah, nice art style, very clean, very clear. It's like one of those clicker sort of games where you don't do much, but you are thinking and moving things around and doing stuff. But yeah, Dream Hotel Masters, not a bad little game. Next up we have Synced. Now again, I'd never heard of this game before. I got it sent to review, downloaded it. It's a basic third-person cover-based sort of shooter, like the Gears of War, but it's like the Gears of War if THQ sort of made it. So it's like what they call AA star sort of game. So it's not a AAA, it's a AA. So it's not as good, but it was fast, fluid, smooth. It looked nice, it played nice, the story was just getting going. So I would say it's a nice little game to get. Just don't expect massively overhype the game, just don't expect too much. Just think of it as a cheap budget game and you will not be disappointed. It's a nice little game. So next up we have Shadow of Depth. Now I am just going to go onto my screens because I googled one game earlier, which is the next one, but I didn't Google this one. It's like I play a game and then I completely forget about it. So yeah, I remember this one now. It's a top-down sort of like action game, something similar to Diablo, that sort of thing, but it's like 2D art. Plays very similar to, what the hell was it called? Gauntlet, there we go. Plays very similar to like a Gauntlet, but with more RPG elements mixed into it. I quite enjoyed the game. It's very cheap, it's very budget, but it was adequate and it played well. It looked okay, nothing special, just a nice little game, and I was quite impressed with how it all flowed and looked. So we move on to the next game now, and I'm going to get the name wrong, so I do apologise. And the name of this game is called Saviorless, something like that. And it is just a very basic 2D action platformer. So imagine like the Castlevania sort of games. It looks like that sort of style, very gothic, very dark, very mysterious. It played well, it looked nice, it flowed well. Some of the backgrounds and that do look a bit more hand-drawn, and I think it starts off with someone telling a story, and it's like, we can't change the story, we can't change the main star, and the people telling the story is like, well, isn't this going to get boring if you can never win, if you can never do this, do that. So I think later on in the game, I think they'll change over and you'll start doing new things in the game and doing new bits and bobs. So I think it could be a nice little game. From the bit I played of it, it looked good, it played well. Action, platformer with puzzles, all that type of good stuff. Next up, we have BattleJuice Alchemist. Now, this one, it looked nice. Like top-down 3D isometric sort of view. Very weirdly to control because I used the mouse and keyboard and it was just weird. I don't have up, down, left, right buttons on this keyboard, so I used the QWERTY sort of like the WSAD sort of thing. And yes, you could like move up, down, left, right, but you couldn't like rotate. So I don't know if you needed the other buttons. The mouse was there to click on things and do things. So it's a very simple sort of get bits to add together to make potions and spells and chemicals, and it looks nice. It played alright. There was a lot of talking at the beginning, but it's not voiced, so you just sat there clicking buttons waiting for the next gameplay element to come through. But if you're into these sort of games, and it's not a bad game, it's just not my sort of game. And then the next game, the Magical Mixture Mill. And this one, again, I've just played these. Why is my brain just completely dead on it? These ones,
Drank one too many potions and became potion intolerant. So no more epic quests for treasure, I am afraid. But don't
it looks very similar.
you can help out
Um,
instead. Explore and gather the rarest materials.
Actually, everything I've just said, imagine that as the Magical Mixture Mill. BattleJuice Alchemist is very much more like a... Oh, pause.
Will get even more interesting.
And BattleJuice Alchemist is more like a standardized Diablo style game, where it's like an isometric viewpoint. You can zoom it in, zoom it out, rotate it around, but you are just moving around the level, shooting and attacking enemies, picking up vials and stuff. It didn't play well with my PC. It was a bit stuttery, a bit jerky, so it wasn't the best of things. But hopefully you can see the video in the background, and it'll look quite nice for you guys. So as I say, this is just going to be a quick recap of stuff. We've also got our Unveiling the Deception videos. Thanks to Pictori for helping us get some little videos out. You basically I just wrote a quick script, whacked it up, and they created the full video for it, full sound effects and everything. Put all the narration, the actual text up on screen and everything. It looks amazing. So if you want to use Pictori, we have a link in the description below. And yeah. So we'll have a quick break and we'll be back with more for episode 400 of the One Up Gaming podcast. So thank you. Back in a minute.
Hi, I'm Matt Kapp, the lead artist on Binding of Isaac Rebirth and the creator of Castle of Darkness, and I listen to the One Up podcast.
Right, so episode 400 of One Up Gaming podcast. It's me, David, and we have got a special guest today. So I guess the easiest thing just to do, just tell us who you are and what do you do, please.
Okay, so at first, hello to all listeners. It's really nice to meet you. My name is Paweł, and I'm work in Cubic Games as a community and PR manager. So, I personally handle marketing and press relations and the social media platforms in Cubic Games. So basically, I'm the one you are talking on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and recently ignored Discord, and I'm sorry for it. Also, I'm sending newsletters for you and making press releases so you guys can read about us on some huge or less or smaller magazines. So yeah, I'm responsible for all communication with players. So if someone has a problem that has not been solved recently, so I'm also sorry, but you know who to blame right now, and I'm
So how did you get to work for the fine team at Cubic Games?
It's quite funny because it all started with when I saw in the internet that some company put that they're looking for someone for a game tester for a quality assurance. Now I know what's game testers are called because right now I didn't knew nothing. It was like wow, they are making games, so it should be fun. It should be a funny job, and they will pay me for it. So it's perfect job for me. And I was 18 then, so I work as a quality assurance without any computer or anything back then, and it was like 1 year and 2 or 3 months. So I learned everything from scratch, and yeah, that was the first year in Cubic Games. But I wanted to try something different later, so I was curious about the marketing side of things and went to the college for a marketing direction. And in Cubic Games, we prefer to educate and boost young talents, young people, and our team members. So it was like I really took a chance for our CEO and for people working here in marketing. They give me a chance, and now I'm here for 5 years and marketing from the marketing specialist. Now I'm marketing manager, and it's like, yeah.
So Cubic Games is having a 20th anniversary. How long have you been with Cubic Games itself as a whole?
Oh, as I said in the previous question, I first got into during a 15th anniversary. So, and now we have a 20th anniversary, and we were a company who was making games for back then for on mostly for Nintendo Switch. Before it was in 3DS or games like Gnomes, for example. I'm not sure if you can remember it. It was really old game. And then Cubic make Robonauts for Nintendo Switch. So yeah, it's I remember a 15th anniversary, but back then I wasn't involved in it because I was playing games and testing them. So it wasn't interesting for me. And yeah, it's now 6 years. Yeah, it's been around 6 years from now.
So Cubic Games have released over 20 titles on Steam. What are your top 5 in your opinion of these games?
If I were talk to only about the Steam, recently there's when we are recording it, it's like 2 hours after we are released this game, so it's a fresh time. But about the Steam, my top 5 would be Ice the Horror game. I also tested that game. It was quite fun. A little scary, yes, but yeah, it's a really good game. Johnny Trigger, both Johnny Triggers. The classic Johnny Trigger, let's say, it's a classic platformer when you are shooting from enemies, and yeah, it's really nice. And the second one is Johnny Trigger Sniper, when you are just making headshots. So basically, it's really fun to play on, for example, Steam Deck. So we have 3 games. The next one I would say is Run Sausage Run, because it's a typical party game when you care, for example, running by Donald Trump and decapitate heads, sausage heads. Yeah, it's really fun with a team. If you have a party at the evening and want to play some FC 24, for example, it's I personally want to play game with a lot of sausages and a lot of blood than kicking a ball. But okay, that's me. And the last one could be a classical whole IO, when you are just need to, swallow everything, building, tanks, and yeah, it's it's also really nice. But if you talk about all platforms, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, I'd say my favorite, from the bottom of the heart, my favorite is a Dungeon Top, and it's really the best card game I ever played.
I must admit, I'm not a card battler sort of game person. There's not many that I've enjoyed. I will just say, like, a massive thank you for like you as a person and Cubic Games for being so consumer friendly, allowing Twitch streamers and small independent websites to actually get Cubic Games and spread the word, about some of these amazing titles.
Yeah, as I said, we always try to support smaller creators by offering help with review keys, doing giveaways, and doing other good stuff, I think. Those who pour their heart into their work mean a lot of us, really. And it's like we love to cooperate with them. And I think it's just awesome to see someone grow and develop than to find already a huge creator, hire them, pay them, and let's get back to business. I think it's better to work with small creators, especially with if you are a indie game developer, for example.
Because I always remember, I mean, we used to, before Game Pass and everything, we used to get Nintendo games sent to us, used to get like Microsoft games sent, Sony sent us stuff. And then I emailed, I think is it Capcom? I think it was Capcom.
Yeah, I see.
And they emailed back saying, once you have 250,000 unique views in the week, then we can sign contracts to send games out. And I said, well, we're only a tiny little channel. 250,000, that's a hell of a lot of things to try and do.
See. Yeah, the Capcom is really, really big company.
Yeah.
However, we still love you, Capcom. You are making great games. We need to love each other.
So anyway, thank you so much for coming on, being a massive sport, for being on our 400th podcast. Before you go, can you just want to let our listeners know how they can get some of these great games and some amazing savings have been seen on some of your social medias they've been putting out?
Yeah, of course, I forgot about the most important thing right now because we have a huge sale. Yeah, we just entered the Steam. So maybe let's start by explaining how to find us. I think the simplest way will be just to type Cubic Games Steam into your Google search and you will find one of our games. So basically just type Cubic Games Steam and you will find us. Most important that all games we have released are currently discounted by 40%. And the next surprise is we have also, you can grab a bundle with 20 of our games for under $20. So it's called 20 for 20 anniversary bundle and it's available on Steam and it's under $20, under 20 pounds, under 20 euros. So yeah, it's 20th anniversary, so it's everything under 20. And yeah, you can also check our Twitter, Cubic Games, because there are a lot of links that you can just click and you don't need to type anything. And come on, everyone can just find it on Twitter or Facebook. Yeah, everyone has a social media, I think. But you don't need to have. Of course, I'm not. I don't want to judge anyone. I would sometimes, yeah, get off the phone and just rest from social medias. So yeah, you can find us anywhere when you are just type Cubic Games Steam and you can find us.
It's absolutely perfect. So I'm gonna butcher this because I'm a stupid English Yorkshire person. But did you say was it Pavel?
Pavel.
So thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. And I hope that the Steam sale and all the games coming out really take off and help Cubic Games get a foothold in a different sort of side of the gaming sphere?
Hi, my name's John here. I'm the designer of games like Sensible Soccer, Cannon Fodder, Whizball, Parallax, and Sociable Soccer, and I listen to the One Up Gaming podcast.
Stay sensible.
Right then, so we're back. One Up Gaming, episode 400. It's me, David, and we've got a massive guest again. I think you must be one of our more regular sort of guests we've had on this show. So anyway, introduce yourself and talk about your amazing gaming catalogue.
Hi, I'm John Hare. I've been around for a while. I was one of the founding members of Sensible Software back in the 80s. So we did like Parallax, Whizball, Shoot 'em Up Construction Kit, Micropro Soccer, Megalomania, WizKid, Sensible Soccer, Sensible World of Soccer, Cannon Fodder, Cannon Fodder 2, Sensible Golf, and then we sold the company to Codemasters, and then I've done a bunch of consulting on different games. We did mobile versions of Sensible Soccer and Cannon Fodder. We did a Sensible Soccer, one in 99, one in 2006 with Cody's. I've done, let's see, Speedball 2 HD, Speedball 2 Evolution, which were like on the iPad and also on the PlayStation, I think, versions of the Bitmap Brothers Speedball. I've done a bunch of other consulting things, Casper the Friendly Ghost, Eminem's Adventure, Doctor Who game, Showtime Boxing, a Real Madrid game, I Can Football, one of my friends' games, another golf game with a game track, which was like an old-fashioned thing with a glove on. Most recently, done Word Explorer, which was a word game I did, and then for the last 8 years, I've been working on Sociable Soccer, which is a new football game. So that's what I'm still on. But now, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we first started talking about social soccer, and there was a Kickstarter, and then things happened, and that didn't go well. And then you must have had a contract with Apple Arcade, because I think it moved from PC development over to the Apple Arcade.
Yeah.
And then you must have had 3 or 4 years as an exclusive deal with them. Because I think it started in, was it 2018,
Yeah, that's
2019?
right. 2019, yeah, we had an exclusive. We're actually, so we still are under the exclusive for mobile under them. We can't do anything other than Apple Arcade on mobile until the end of this year. But come the end of this year, we can actually do mobile outside of Apple Arcade for the first time.
Apart from is it China or somewhere where you've got like a...
Yeah, China. The China version was odd because it never actually came out. It got close and never came out for whatever reason. The Steam version has been out since the end of last year. We haven't pushed and publicized it very much because we've been waiting for the console versions to be ready, which is where we are now. So we've been waiting to do a bit of a push behind the console versions, and we've been slowed up a little bit by some of the protocols going through some of the console manufacturers. But we do have now an approved Switch version. And we are on the edge of having an approved version for PlayStation and for Xbox. And they will actually be coming out pretty soon. I'm not going to say exactly when because we're literally about to do a press announcement about this very soon. But what I can say is that it'll be out sooner than people think. We've been very quiet about it because we've been waiting to see how it aligns, but we're about to do an announcement probably later this week. I think we plan to do it. Yeah.
Perfect.
No, it might be early next week. Now we might
Right.
push it to next week. So at the moment we're working with some different partners. both on the development side and a bit on the publishing side. We've got a little bit more going on. Again, we're going to announce what we're doing with that, so I'm not going to say it now. But we've actually got a little bit more power recently. So we've got a bit more development power. We've got a little bit more financial power, and that enables us to do a bit more with the game. To finally get Social Soccer 24 out on the consoles, and also on the PC version. We've been holding an update back, waiting for the consoles, and we've been in test for a long time, particularly with Sony actually, which has kind of slowed it all down, which is a little bit frustrating. But we're nearly at the other side of that, and yeah, we're about to make a big announcement about a kind of licensing deal we've done, and then we're going to tell people about the date that we're going to launch, and tell them all the other exciting things that are going on, and then work towards even more stuff for the end of the year. So we're very busy at the moment. We've actually expanded our team recently, so there's quite a lot of management to do on my side now, just keeping everyone together. But it's really exciting. We're planning all the new features of the game. We got a little bit more manpower, so there's a lot more we can do now. We're in a stronger position, probably the strongest position we've been with this game right now.
So I remember speaking, it must be 2-3 years ago now, when you were discussing about the console sort of versions, and we mentioned the fact of it needs to have like cross-play. So if you have a PlayStation, you can play against people on the Xbox.
Yeah.
And I know that's more of a feature that the console manufacturers sort of like gate. But have you guys managed to get like cross-play available on the
Not for
console?
Social Soccer 24, no. The Social Soccer 24, we have some issues actually with the integration of the different friend lists from the various different formats and making that work, which is making some variance in what we can do between the platforms. By the time we get to Social Soccer 25, we hope to have all those problems resolved. And I would hope that by the time we get to Social Soccer 25, which isn't too far away, our plan is to release Social Soccer 25, nearer, sooner than this time in the year, next year, because this one is very, very late right now. We're very late because we've had platform problems. So by the time we get 25 out, which should be, with a bit of luck, be on mobile as well, we'll hope to have had those problems sorted out. But right now they're not. No. But yeah, I think I can't categorically hand on heart say we will have cross-platform play, but there's a bigger chance of having it on 25. There's no chance on 24 right now.
Right.
There's simply time to sort it out.
Because I mean, I know nothing about marketing and all that kind of stuff. If it was me in your position, because Social Soccer 24, as you say, it's been delayed maybe about 6 months of how you guys wanted the game to actually originally come out on consoles. I would have this game, I'd take the 24 off for the Xbox, for the consoles, and just call it Social Soccer European Championship Edition. And the Americans call it the Social Soccer Copa America Edition. And then when it gets to like the September, October-ish sort of time, then call it Social Soccer 25.
That is kind of possible to do, except that when you book your stuff you're doing with unboxed versions, for example, you need to pre-order units 3 or 4 months in advance. I don't even know that. So we're not that agile to like change this stuff. Like, we are agile, but the platform holders are not agile, basically. And the stores are not agile. So we could do that, but I think we're going to persist with Social Soccer 24 just because that's where we are now. I mean, you're right, it's an odd time to launch Social Soccer 24 at the end of the season. We could potentially rename it just Social Soccer on the consoles. That, I don't know whether that would be more or less confusing to people to have it different names in different places. I don't know. The Apple Arcade at the moment is called Social Soccer 21. Don't even know that.
Yeah.
So it's very odd. It's very odd to manage these platforms. The it's not as simple as just pinging a new version up. Like if you're doing it on Steam or something, it's really simple because you can just make a new version, put it up there. No one's vetting it. No one's analyzing what you're doing. It's much, much, much faster. But on some of the
Yeah,
platforms, you're going under a microscope with everything you do, which is well, certainly with the Apple Arcade version is why we didn't bother to rename it last time because when you renamed it, you had to like submit 1,000 screenshots to all be vetted, and at that time when we didn't have time, we were just like, when you're a smaller company, all of these regulations you have to work through are harder to to manage. We're actually getting to a point where we are taking on more people on this publishing side, and we should be able to manage this stuff soon. But right up to now, we've been running on everyone doing about 6 jobs at this side, and it's quite hard to deal with these slower, more meticulous things. Everyone in the team kind of groans. So yeah, I mean, we'll settle. Hopefully, by the time we get to Surgical Soccer 25, we'll have settled into our rhythm. Yeah, unfortunately, there's been a bit of a hiccup on the console side. And I know people have been waiting, and we wanted them out in March. And if there hadn't been these problems, they would have been out in March. But we couldn't get them out in March. Then we couldn't get them out in May, and it's just, unfortunately, when you're with platform holders, you're not in control. They are. You just got to sit and wait what they say. And what actually happened was that Nintendo passed the game, and then Sony didn't pass it.
yeah.
So what can you do? Depends. You're gonna be lucky. So
So I don't. I mean, like I've recently just released a couple of books, like coffee table books, 8.5 inches squared, like 290 pages, like one for the Sega Saturn, one for the Nintendo 64, and one for the PlayStation. It's like
yeah,
screenshots and small like paragraphs about each game, controllers, different versions of the consoles. And I mean, I put a good 6 months of prep, of effort, of getting it
hmm
all up and running. And you go on to like Amazon and you read some of the reviews. As I've stopped reading some of the reviews now. Do you actually still go through and read some of the reviews on Steam or anything?
on Steam, I actually been personally reading them and replying to everybody. We haven't. Again, we are just ramping up on the publishing side. We will have a community manager, a social media manager back, and we have had one in the past, but recently it's been very tight, and we've not had that. So again, like I say, we all wear many hats. Yes, I do, and some people write very intelligent, well measured reviews. Some of the criticism is well aimed. Some of it is just it's great, we love it. Some of it is it's great, but blah blah blah. And most of the time, a lot of the features that the fans are talking about and the players are talking about are things that we know need doing, and we might be in the middle of doing them anyway. So
Yeah,
and then some people are just ridiculously critical and pointing out things which you never intended to be, or like the very worst criticism is um all the player names are in there, but all the club names and all the league names aren't in there. Now, I mean, the volume of licenses you need to acquire. If you look at FIFA, for example, or EA Sports FC now, it has 80 different licenses. That costs a fortune.
yeah,
Each license is costing hundreds of thousands to millions. Imagine getting 80 of them. It's a substantial amount of money you're paying. And we've got a great license in the FIFA Pro license. We have well over 12,000 players licensed in the game. Well over half of our players are licensed players, which is fantastic. So most of the best known players in the world are licensed in our game. Their photos are there, their names are there. They're on their player cards, and we've got a little model representing them. Not with individually fashioned faces yet, I might add, because that's obviously extremely expensive. But it's great, and that's more than most football games have got. And for people to go, oh, they've only got the player names, you haven't got the clubs and the club badges and that. It's a substantial investment, and sometimes you can't even get them because one of our competitors has like taken an exclusive on them. So we've been working to get a game which the player licenses look absolutely great in the game. I'm delighted with them, and the club names look great. You know who they're meant to be. Anyone who's played sensible soccer will know the kind of where we're aiming it at. And yeah, we've got a fantastic new endorsement for the game sorted out now, which we're about to announce, which I think everyone will be interested in and amused by and entertained by. So I'm quite happy that we've got that done. And for us, I mean, it's like being the little boys sitting at the big boys table sometimes. And we're in a position where we're lucky that with some of the recent developments, and I'll be able to talk about this a lot more next time we speak after we announce what we've just done. But basically, we're in a position where we've got a little bit more backing now. We've got from a very unusual source, we've managed to like empower ourselves, and now we can do more. But it takes a while to like, even if you put more manpower at something, it takes a while to like gel that all together and make it happen and bring stuff together. And we've been signed with various publishing companies, as you know, and we were signed with KISS at one point, and then our deal with KISS didn't materialize because a lot of companies are struggling out there, and KISS was one of those companies as well. They just couldn't basically finance the whole thing properly for us at that time. So we've gone the route of self-publishing without really having a publishing team in the company. So to do this properly, we have been growing slowly a publishing team within the company, within the organization, so that we can take on all of the facets that are needed to make a game successful. And some of that is marketing and PR and managing all the storefronts properly and all that kind of stuff. So getting your pricing right, doing your sales deals at the right time, all things, to be honest with me, I'm mostly involved in game development. I've worked with publishers my whole life, brilliant publishers, but it's not really been my job. So now the job has been for us to kind of like grow this extra arm of the company, which has been fun, excellent. We're doing it right now. Like we're interviewing people now. We're taking different people on. We've got different roles. We're filling up, and it's really good fun. But it's taken a while. It's kind of come at the time when we've been finishing off these console versions. And then we've taken on this new development company. We've taken on more people, but now we've got more people to manage and plan. So like all your design plans for example, Social Soccer 25, we'll be putting in place for that and beyond 25. At the same time as we're finishing off 24, at the same time as we're building our publishing arm and talking to all the different platforms. It's a busy time for us. And I think that people are going to be very pleasantly surprised by Social Soccer 24 on not only on the consoles, but for the PC players, like the improvements that we've made. We've been taking in a lot of feedback that we've been reading. Like you asked me about reading those reviews. Yeah, we read them all, every single one. And I'm the person who controls the design of the game. And I take input from everywhere, including every single reviewer that I read stuff. Even if I hate it, I will still take it in and digest it because it's important. Otherwise, you might miss something. So yeah, we've some. I'll give you an example. One person was saying that they hated every time you score a goal in the game at the moment on the PC, a screen come up saying this player scored a goal. And it's got his card and it had a background, and the background is kind of a medium color blue at the moment, but it can look quite bright. And he was complaining that the blue is always flashing. Now it's something that I hadn't picked up at all, that it might be an issue to someone. So then that made us experiment with different ways of presenting this. And in the end, all we did was use a different, darker tone of blue in the background. So we used the blue like a screen wipe. So you can, when you finish a scene and you've got a camera and you want to quickly jump to another camera, you can, a trick is to use a screen wipe and jump the camera, right? So you need the screen to be filled with something for a period of time whilst you do that transition, and we've chosen this bright blue, and we've changed it to a darker blue now, so it's less jarring. So if you're more sensitive to like flashing lights or whatever, it's gonna bother you less, and it looks better graphically, and it's something I would never have picked up on at all without reading comments.
Yeah.
So when I read those comments, if they're easy wins like that, like tiny bits of work, like change of color, and it can make a big difference. Some small things. We've changed the aftertouch system, which was to do with changing a little bit about the goalkeeper code, so that we could free up the aftertouch system, which we've done. We've changed the goalkeeper animation system. We have changed the ball pairing system a little bit, I think. So we picked up on some little foibles that there were in the gameplay, which are now fixed. It's the shooting's more fun. The goalkeepers are a little bit more fun there. What else have we been doing? Loads of little in this version, those bug fixes and stuff. There's been 2 very nasty bugs in the game, which we're hoping to get fixed very soon. They certainly need to be fixed before we release the new versions. There's a problem where, and it's happened to only really top level players, you get a new player in as a lone player in your team, and for some reason he gets stuck, and he gets stuck on the pitch, and when you sub him off, he just comes back on again. It's so annoying. And he's the worst player in the team. You've got loads of level 80 and 90 players, and there's this level 20 guy, and you sub him off, and he just brings himself back in the squad all the time. So that this is an error to do with the communication between the server and the game. And when the game goes back to the server says no, he's still there, and just puts him back in. So we're beginning to that, and then we've got another very irritating bug. When you get to the very top league in the game, there's a miscalculation on your points at the end of the season, unless you've at the end of each week, unless you've completed an entire season, it basically relegates you automatically to the league below and takes some of your points away. And that's a really frustrating, annoying bug that has been a while being fixed, taking a while to be fixed. And it is frustrating for me that these things are there, but we've got a very technically complex game now, so it's a very delicate thing. A lot of things can go wrong, and sometimes they're platform specific, and sometimes they're like systemic. And then we're adding things. So, for example, what I can, sorry, I get confused because we're working on Sociable Soccer 25 now already, whilst we're finishing off 24. So we're putting some really cool things in Sociable Soccer 25 at the moment, which I think people are going to really like. So I guess I don't want to talk about those now, because I want people to talk about Sociable Soccer 24, particularly on the consoles. Will be coming out on Switch very, very soon. Is what I can say. Very, very soon. And the PlayStation and Xbox will be quite soon behind that. That's where we are right now. The Switch is the first out the gate. So
I think the plan before was roughly like the Switch was, when we last spoke, the Switch was meant to be like November-ish sort of time, and then the Xbox, that was January, February sort of time. So it was like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
After.
Hopefully the gap will be a bit smaller, but yeah, it's all been just pushed back. I mean, it's just we've been reconfiguring our development, shall we say, to minimize these problems for the future. But we last year was not an easy year for us at all, because we hit a bunch of development snags, and we also had the problem with KISS just struggling to finance what we were doing. So it was a bit tough last year, but we survived it. We got through it. Yeah, a bit like my Sunday team.
So how is your Sunday team doing?
Well, so our Sunday team, Anglia FC, we're in the Cambridge MCR League. So we play against teams like St Edmunds and St John's College, Wolfson, the Department of Engineering, Cambridge Assessment are the best team in the league. They win it every year at the moment. They're the exam board in Cambridge. They're the second biggest employer after the NHS in the city. So,
Let me know.
of course, we're a university town, right? So, but we play in that league with all the colleges and stuff, and we have had a proud record since we got promoted. I think it was eight seasons ago to the top league. We've always been in the top half, and we've always been in the top six because the amount of teams changes. And actually, last year was the only year we dropped out the top five. Normally we're third to fifth, like every year we're between third and. And then 2 years ago, we got to second, which was the first time we'd ever been second. I'm managing the team now, as well as still playing a bit. So it was great. We got to second, our best ever performance, and I was really happy as the manager. And then the following year, we got sixth, which actually was our worst ever performance. And this year, we were like in sixth with one game left to go, and we'd have been bottom half. So we've never been bottom half of the table. So we needed to win the last game of the season, which we did. We won, I think it was 5-2. So we stayed with our record of always finishing in the top half. So for me, that was the stress out of the way. Yet again, we got to a cup semi-final and lost it, which is the same as last season. We had a very large turnaround of players, but we got some good players in, some good new young players actually, which is also good for our team. But importantly for me, I clocked up 200 appearances for the team this season, which is really very nice.
That's really nice.
So yeah, at my age, that's not bad.
It's like, what are you now? 58, 50?
I'm 58.
Yeah.
And we're playing in the uni league, and some of the guys are in their 20s. Some of the guys are even teenagers. It's a variety of ages. So the average age of the players is about 28, maybe 29, 30.
Yeah.
So just to be there, and I've played, I think, about 3 or 4 full games this season. Normally, I come on for the first 20 minutes or so, and then I sub myself off, because actually, as a manager, when you're managing and playing, you very rarely make managerial changes in the first 20 minutes or so. So I've worked out the way to do it is to basically start the game and then bring myself off as the first guy to get subbed off, which also sets a good example to the team that in our league you can rotate subs, so you can rotate on and off. And by doing that, it kind of gives me a chance to be at the side of the pitch and shouting at people for the rest of the match, which I kind of enjoy. Although this season has been harder than most. And the other thing is, for anyone who manages a Sunday team, the rain this season has just destroyed. We had 6 matches cancelled because of rain this season. 6. So you spend all the week getting all your players together and trying to get like 15 guys or 16 guys, basically, which is the number you need really to do a match with subs. Then you've got to organise a pitch. Then you've got to organise the ref. Then the opposition have got to organise it. And then a little bit of rain comes down and the groundsman says it's off. And that happened in November and December. It was happening every week. It was so frustrating.
Yeah, I remember when I was 19, 20, 21. So I guess that's 20 odd years ago now.
Yeah.
I was playing Saturday League and Sunday League up in the northeast of England.
Yeah.
And I think I was 21 and I sort of ripped and shattered all my cartilage and my cruciate ligament and it hurt that much. It was just I don't want to play football anymore. So I gave up quite early. I used to love that.
1 second.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's a lot of people, they get injuries. And what I've noticed is the general note. I played football as a kid every day, but I stopped playing at the age of about 13, 14 in school playground. I just stopped. And I didn't start again until I was in my mid-20s. So I had about a 10-year, 12-year gap.
Yeah.
When I was indulging in other stuff like playing music and finding girlfriends and other naughty stuff. And when I started again, I'm glad I started when I did. And I've noticed a lot of people are a bit like you. They played like a good standard when they were in their teenage years, like in those late teens, which is when I didn't play. And then they got an injury or they just went off it. And then they come back and then they're like, I'm not as good as I'm not as fast as I was when I was 21. It's
Yeah,
like, well, of course you're not. You know, you have to adapt your game. And I think sometimes people lose years of playing sport, particularly a team sport like football, in their late 20s, 30s, and 40s when they could be playing, when they're still like doubting themselves because they're judging themselves against their 22-year-old self or whatever. And I think the reality of any sport, especially a team sport like football, you've got to adapt the way you play to how your body is. So, like when I was when we had our old sensible software team, which was in the mid 90s, I was playing as a centre forward,
yeah,
and I was a centre forward because not because I wanted to be, but the guy who was best at football in our team said, "No, you should play up centre forward because you're the most suited for it." I mean, I've just gone back and back and back and back. You know, centre forward, then down to the right wing, then down to right back, then into centre back, or then I've discovered I'm a reasonably good goalie for certainly for five-a-side, maybe a bit for 11-a-side, so I'll go in goal sometimes. And I now go between being a goalie, a right back, and a centre back. But most of my time is spent. Well, this season we would be playing with a back three, which is great for me because just like the right hand side of a back three is just about the perfect position for me personally.
yeah.
But normally I'll play as a centre back or a right back most of the time. But I can also play as a left back. Um, and I go in goal as the emergency keeper when the first two or three keepers can't make it, you know?
It's like when I was in the school sort of football team, I was like a centre back, but they discovered that when I went up at 11, 12, I never actually got any taller. So I was like 5'4" when I went up to secondary school. And when I left secondary school, I'm only like 5'6", 5'7". So I didn't really get any taller. So they moved me out to the right back, so I wasn't really needed
Yeah,
to head of the ball.
it is useful as a defender to be bigger. I mean, when I was like 14, 15, I wasn't particularly big. And sometimes I forget. Like now, when I play five-a-side, we play in a five-a-side league up the road here. Um, we're on target to be second in the league again at the moment. So if we won it last time, the Cats actually, I feel sorry for the team at the top now. They've cancelled it like a couple of times, and they were top. And then we got cancelled, so we're still technically champions. Although I feel it's a little bit not quite fair on them. But anyway, we're second, but I forget that I'm big and quite strong, and some people find me a little bit physical. And I don't really play with the intent to harm anyone, but I guess I'm quite competitive. I like to try and win, and I know I'm not that fast. So you've got to adapt your game to like being physical and like physically being have a presence. And it's strange how you don't always perceive how you are to other people in a sport. You know, you still think like one guy we play with. I don't know. He's about 6'5". He's quite big. He's a tall bloke. He's quite strong. But you talk to him, and he's like a little kid sometimes. You know, he's always moaning about his ankles hurting and stuff. It's like, come on, Joe, just get on with it. So it's I love the football management aspect and working with different characters and
Yeah,
you know different people, and it's very rewarding when you get someone through. You know, I spend my life managing game teams. You know, managing the football team or playing the football team in a captain role, or you know, being the writer and leader of a band. It's just what I tend to find myself in those
yeah,
positions. So I guess that you've got to be able to you've got to like people to be able to manage people unless you're just a masochist.
yeah. I guess you like the responsibility, but you've also driven to be able to push people in the
I
right
like
way.
yeah, I mean it depends on what it is. So it's interesting for me like with games uh I'm meant to be good at this. I am good at it mostly, and I can be a bit of a control freak. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I push people. People can find me irritating because I tell them to do stuff again because it's not good enough. um but that's how you get the best results out of people. um Some people don't like that process, uh, but that's how I work. So with games, my leadership is also um, making a lot of decisions. Like important decisions, like discussions today on how we're going to price the games, and how this knock-on effect from console platform holders, some of them approving the game, some not, what we're going to do, when we're going to launch it, how we're going to price it, blah blah blah. They're major decisions that will affect the way the game goes out, and you've got to listen to input from loads of people around you to make the right decision. Because I'm not a marketing guy. I'm not someone who manages prices on the Steam page or the App Store or whatever. It's not really my bag. I mean, I can guess at a number, but to know the most effective way to do it and when to do the sales and all that kind of stuff, that's not what I do. I try and put together teams of people who are capable.
Yeah, it's like you need to be able to pick the best people for the other jobs that you not struggle with, but aren't as capable of.
Yeah, like I've never been a programmer, so I just need good programmers around me. That's the number one thing. But what I do is I do the game design and control that and creatively direct the game, and do a lot of the contracts. So a lot of the legal stuff, a lot of the stuff which, if you're talking to someone about when you come and work for us to do marketing or to do programming or whatever it might be, generally it's me that will look at the contract drafting and the terms which we take someone on, those kind of things. So that how they get incentivized, how they're paid, what the terms of how long it's for, or what the conditions of payment are, whatever. And because when you're putting a team together, you've got to blend all these pieces. And if I look at the wider social soccer team right now, we have got a lot of people. So we have got four of us at like the core of the production, design, the data for the game, and the server code. Then we've got another couple of guys who we use for a back-end server thing, so that's six. Then we've got two or three guys that we've taken on who do our porting for us, so that's nine. Then we've just taken on 14 guys in the team to do all our main programming, to take over from the other team we had. So that's 23. Yeah, so we've got 23 on the development side. And then we've got like a team of translators we use. Obviously, we don't use them permanently, but there's about 10 people that work on the translations for the game, maybe more. And then we've got a team of two or three guys that do the testing for us. So that's another 13. So now you're up to like 36 people involved. And then on the publishing side, we've got three people, one of the PR companies we use, so that's 39. And we've got a second one with another two, and second PR company, so that's 41. And then we got people helping us on the publishing side, so there's another maybe three or four people, 5 people there. So you're getting up to like mid-40s. The translation thing's a bit cheap, really, to call that 10 people, but we're kind of like we're getting up close to 40, 50 people.
Yeah.
In all the roles that involved in putting the game out, and it's quite a lot. It's not insubstantial. So, coordinating all of that and making sure everyone knows what they're doing, can be tricky. Yeah,
Because I know that you sort of said before that you're like a night owl, so you like stay up quite
I'm a
late
night
and
but it's really like when you're doing a whole bunch of different roles at the same time, you've got to fire your message out whilst it's in your head and you're remembering it. You're not going to remember it in 2 hours because you'll be on somewhere totally different. You'll be looking at a game design detail, or like how much we're going to pay this guy, or when's that going to come out, and all the different conversations are going around you at once. You've got to be on top of every aspect of running a games company at this level we're at the moment, which is moving towards getting more. Like I said, we've probably got, I'm trying to think on the publishing side how many people we've got. Well, now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's probably maybe about 8 people, different roles of advice on the publishing side now. So we're growing that side now, what we're doing, but it's in its infancy, what we're doing there to grow it from what it was, which was a smaller team. And of course, you don't use everyone always, all the time. So with this, it's a lot of people coming into roles. But it's amazing how many people are involved in the game. It's just amazing how many people it takes to put a product out, and that's got to be financed.
Yeah.
No one does it for love only. Even if they do love it, they do it for money as well. So you're making sure that aspect is rolling, and you've got that is quite a challenge. And yeah, and then obviously on top of that, you've got to make a great game. You've got to make the game as good as it can be. And fortunately for social soccer, it's getting better and better all the time. No doubt about it. It's getting better all the time. And I think the new development partners we've taken on will give us a lot more strength now. We've got more manpower. We've got more expertise in certain areas we've not had before. So, and we know what the game is, and we know what it does, and we know the areas that the game needs strengthening in now more than we did before. So I think we're going to, within the next year to 2, we'll find our feet with this title. I know it sounds like it's taken a long time, but we haven't even released it on a single console yet. We haven't released it on regular mobile yet at all. I mean, it's unbelievable, but we really haven't. We've been in a bit of a silo.
I mean, without trying to sound too kiss-assy, it's like when I played the game, because I had the MacBook, so I played it on the MacBook, the Apple Arcade version, and then I got the PC code, and I've been playing that. And I will say the player movement, the speed, the control, the actual physics of the ball, the way the ball passes and moves. I think that the game, as an arcade, fast-paced football game, is probably the best feeling game I've played ever. And ever. I think it actually plays better than the old Sensible Soccers.
Wow, that's amazing, David. Can you tell everyone in the world what you just said? That's the message we need everyone to hear. And the new PC version, because you can always refine it. It's like sculpture, So it's better than you've got now. So yeah, the aftertouch system, the ball powering is better now. The goalie animations are better. The goalie has been a bit of a weakness that we've worked on more this time to improve, because when you're working between versions of a game, you tend to work on the bit that's the weakest to get it up to the level of everything else, and then suddenly you'll surpass that. So, for example, on the Social Soccer 25 at the moment, we're working a lot on overhauling the menu presentation to make it look really good, because we didn't do much on it for quite a while. So what you'll see with Social Soccer 25 when it comes out, which isn't this version, but the next one, is that the menus will improve significantly. We want to work a lot on what's going on in all the stadiums, and all that graphics area, which at one point was the strongest thing in the game. Now, because on this current version for 24, like if you call it 24.5, which is what this console version is. So on PC, we're going to launch an update, which is effectively 24.5. And in the consoles, you've got the 24.5 content. It's all been about refining controls, getting rid of little errors and bugs and things that people didn't like, and just smoothing what we've got. And then on 25, then we're looking at some small game mode changes, adding some features that are really missing from the game. I won't say what they are. They're obvious ones that you'd expect to have in the game that aren't there. So adding some things back in there that really need to be there. And then looking at very much what's happening in the stadium with the way that the pitches look, everything's presented, doing a bit of work if we can on the animations and all that kind of stuff, working to overcome some of these issues that have been pointed out by some of the console manufacturers. And then in the background, you've got even longer tasks, which aren't even going to hit 25, because, the reason we're working on Social Soccer 25 is to put it out at all this year. We've got to start to feature clamp in July or August,
Yeah.
because then this whole process of going to consoles and blah blah blah. So because it's quite slow, we're very much focused on pushing 24 out, but actually getting 25 done at the same time. Because the console launches come so late, they're kind of concertinaed in on each other a little bit. So whereas the Steam ones had that proper run, the others haven't. And then beyond that, we're already looking at Social Soccer 26. So the really, really much longer features that you want to get in, the bigger features, the stuff which would give you the difference between Sensible Soccer and SWOS, if you like, which was a long time. Some of that stuff is going to be pushed right back further than 25 because it's just too much to do. So you kind of find yourself working on multiple versions at once, because you've got all the different versions and all the different formats as well. So you're gonna jump your mind between, 24 that's not come out yet. But to us, we've already kind of done it, but it's not out yet because it's been held in this bug fixing phase for the consoles. Whereas 25 is what we're working on, really. So it's quite an odd thing. You're kind of working on two versions at once. But yeah, it's fun. I mean, there's a lot more to do with this game. This is nowhere near what I would call, run out of ideas, run out of features.
Yeah. It's the same with the old FIFAs or EA Sports FC 24, whatever the hell they call it now. There's a new game every year, but they only get 9 months to do the new game because of how long it takes to do all the bits and bobs. So, but because they've got 200-300 men working on the game, they can have the 100 people working for the 9 months on the game, and then they have the other 200 or so working in the background for features that will be added in 2-3 years.
Exactly. We're even starting to do that. So there's a couple of very long features. Some of them are intricate. We won't start them until 25 has stopped. So some of the ones that are more intense about game modes and menus and that kind of stuff. But on, what a couple of features I can think of, they're just very, very long. It's just one thing, but it's going to take somebody over a year to do this thing.
Yeah.
Because it's just complicated. So, you have to bear in mind that kind of the timeline, and of course, stupidly, we're taking on all these platforms simultaneously, which is giving ourselves a lot of problems, but ultimately gives you the right, hopefully in the end, gives us the right balance when we're out on all the platforms, that we can start to see that it's working in those different areas. And like I say, when we're partnering with other people at the moment, which is going to give us a lot more power. I'm happy to have a chat with you once we announce that. It won't be too long. And you'll see what we're doing, that we really going to be for a kind of company that's basically a one game company, or has been for quite a long time. We're going to be in a fantastic position. We're going to be in a position where not only potentially due to the old Sensible Soccer connections and stuff, have we got a great brand, but due to the partnerships we're forging now, we should be able to, to push ourselves to where we want to be. And quite clearly, where we want to be is we don't expect to be competing directly with EA for that number one spot. That's not easily achievable. But the second spot, certainly the third spot, they're achievable. It's getting these stepping stones as a franchise or a brand or a game or whatever you want to call what Social Soccer is. It's getting those stepping stones and finding, which platforms we resonate best with. We don't, even now, we don't know. We've only really been out on Apple Arcade, which is a very old platform, and Steam, without really marketing. We've put almost nothing into the marketing so far. So yeah, we'll still see. We're still in our infancy, even though we're over 8 years old. It's a bit odd, but
so it's I remember playing the game on the iPad, and I believe at that time one of the main strengths was the UI, was the big bold sort of like screens, and so you know, for a touchscreen device, that
Yeah,
was really well. And it might have changed, and if it has, I apologize. I don't play on the PC much because, as you can see, I'm in a little cupboard. It's very
yeah.
warm in here. I play on the Xbox in the living room. But the when I played the PC version, as I say, the gameplay, all that is absolutely top notch. But I just
Hmm.
felt as though the actual screens before you got to the game, it still felt as though it's designed as a touchscreen game, and it felt too bold and too chunky. It needs to be
Well,
a bit more
yeah. I mean,
streamlined.
yeah. Social Soccer 24 is what it is. I mean, we've not worked that much on the menu side on Social Soccer 24.5, if I could call that, from what 24 was. So as the PC games come out, that's how it is for 24. But on Social Soccer 25, we're doing a complete menu overhaul with every screen. So
Yeah,
it's not worth doing it on both because it's just not worth it. Like you work on 25, which isn't there yet. So we're in this kind of like, this is like I say, the game is basically, you launch at the start of a season, roughly at the start, and then you launch halfway through that season with a patch. So in our 24.5, obviously we've got the half season patch for all the data as well. But what's weird is because of the delay on the console versions are coming out on the patch, which is meant to be halfway through the season and not the start. So you've kind of like got slightly odd. Although to be fair, it is the Euros, so
yeah.
it's the Euros coming up, so we're going to be in and around that kind of area that we're looking at. We'll give the official dates soon, but we're in and around that area now we're looking at, unless something goes badly wrong. So
So like I say, I mean, I've been clicking around and nothing official. You don't have to agree or anything.
yeah.
But I've seen one release date of the 7th of next month,
Uh-huh.
and the PlayStation it says the 30th of the 8th.
Oh, your research is pretty good.
Right.
Uh, but we are hoping to um we're hoping to draw that well the 30th of the 8th for the PlayStation. It depends on that might be for some people might become a bit sooner, hopefully.
Right.
Depends on how you want to consume it, should we
And
say.
weirdly, it says the Switch version is 29.99, and the PlayStation, the Xbox is 20. Is it 20? Yeah, 24.99.
Yeah, so we've actually gone through the discussion about pricing today and how we want to price it. Um, I'm not going to tell you anything about that because we're
Yeah.
literally that has been the discussion today. Um, and we all I can say is all the pricing is under review right now. Um, Obviously, we have to bear in mind the reality with pricing is that, for example, on Steam, everyone buys it when it's on sale anyway. I mean, like,
Yeah.
the reality is, if you look at the stats, only a third of people buy Steam games full price. Uh, Another third only get them when they're on sale, like half price or less, and the other third only get them when they're totally free. So that we have to bear in mind
90% of
when.
my Steam games are bought when they're £2.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So we have to bear in mind that when you announce a price, that the way you sell the game is effectively mostly in the sales when that price isn't being met. So the price is really, to me, it's really odd. I mean, like I said, this is not my part of the industry at all, but to me, it's really quite odd. But we have to make sure that we're balancing this out across all the platforms we're there on, and we've got digital versions and we've got box versions as well of the game. So we've got to make sure that the balance. I mean, obviously, as you can appreciate, if you do a Switch version with a cartridge in it, that's going to cost more to make than like a digital version of
Yeah.
anything really. So you have to price according to physical media and that kind of stuff as well a little bit. So we have to bear all that stuff in mind when we announce the pricing, like across all the formats. But we had a discussion today on it, and So we're going to verify that actually tomorrow as it happens on the pricing to see what we're going to do. Make our decisions on how we're going to handle the stuff with Sony, particularly at the moment on the issues that they're looking at, and make a decision on that, and then we'll announce to people relatively shortly all the different formats of the game when they're going to come out and what the prices are going to be. Yeah, so it's like as you're speculating on the first date you mentioned, it's pretty soon is the answer. And that when we obviously we need to do some marketing around that, let people know the game's there, tell them about it, do a little bit of PR, and our plan is to put whenever the Switch comes out, to put the PC update at the same time. We've kind of been holding it back to get it at the same time, but unfortunately we've been juggled around by the console stuff a little bit. But yeah, a lot of the PC issues are quite neatly what ones there are, and like you say, it's great to play, but we still just always see the little bits that can be improved. They will be addressed fairly soon, as you can guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we will make our announcements. I think people will be, like I say, happy and entertained by our new endorsement partners and stuff as well. And the game will get a little bit of a facelift and a little bit of a hello. We're here. We really mean business. We're not going away. We're here we're here in the long run. We've just got the good partnerships in place now to give us the power to be here for the long run. We're not. It's like if people look at a game and go, well, I don't know. Like I said, people going, oh, there's no club badges there, for example, and that kind of stuff, and then they just think you're just going to go away. Well, that's not why we're here. Like you say, we've got, for anyone who's played it, they'll know once you get into the controls, and I guess it helps to have had the sensible soccer background, but we've got, well, you said it's the best arcade football game a minute ago, so there you go.
It is. I mean, don't get me wrong. When I must have been about 15, 16-ish, playing on the Amiga, or was it Sensible Soccer 90? It was the management game. It was Sensible World of Soccer. That would have been about 95. So they've been about 14, 15.
SWOS came out in 94.
Yes,
so that's the management. It says could it be 95? Yeah, that'd be about right.
Yeah, they've been about 14, 15-ish. And I could play that game and I could win on the easy level. I could win like 11-0.
Yeah.
But going back onto it now, I can barely win like 1-2-0. So I must have just put that much time into it when I was a kid that I was that good. And I've just not played it in 20 years.
It's really hard to get the balance right for difficulty. Actually, I can't remember if these are in the current version that's out there. I just don't remember because there's so many things going around. But we have now got difficulty levels in there. That's one thing we've added. So that you've got an easy, medium, and hard difficulty selection when you play a match, and then the rewards vary depending on which you pick. Because it's so hard to get the game playing at a level that everyone is balanced on. Some people just find it too easy, and some people find it too hard. So we've added the difficulty levels, which I think is a major plus for the game, actually.
So I will just say, thank you so much for coming on.
Yep.
I've got one final question.
What's that?
And that is, when you sold everything to Codemasters, were you disappointed in how they handled things, or were you at that time happy just to walk away?
Good question. When you sell a company, there's a reason you're selling the company. And the reason you're selling the company is for whatever reason you don't want to carry on as you are anymore. Because whatever those factors are. In our case with Sensible Software, we didn't, at the state the industry was in, bear in mind we sold it in 1999, which is now 25 years ago. Almost exactly 25 years ago to the day, practically, we sold it. So we sold it in May I remember. Um, the we needed to get to a point where we were employing about 60 people to move on to the next level of technology. And at the time, we had an office of 20, and we were already struggling with it. And we were just like, we didn't want to do that. We were a two-man team that set out coming from playing in a band to making games, and suddenly we were being made to like have an orchestra to manage,
Yeah.
and we just didn't want it. And so we, the main thing was the main thing about the sale of Sensible Software was, firstly, myself and Chris, my business partner Chris Yates, there, we basically just, our model was simple. We ran the company. We always made sure there was 6 months worth of costs in the bank, and the rest we just split 50-50. That's the way we ran the company. We just paid ourselves when there was a bit of surplus. And we, during those years of earning good royalties from Sensible Soccer and Cannon Fodder, we'd already taken out a fair bit of money from that back in those times. So when we sold the company, we'd had money out of it. We'd had a real problem time with, which we talked about a lot, the Warner contract and what happened with Sex, Drugs and Rock and Roll and the 3D Sensible Soccer and Have a Nice Day. And we just really wanted to get out in one piece and not ruin what we'd built. So we kind of like, me and Chris never argued, even for one day with each other when we ran that company together. So it's keeping that spirit between us and breaking that out and getting out. So we managed to get out okay. Financially, it was okay for us. It wasn't brilliant, but it was all right. Everything was intact. It was alive. I carried on working with Cody's. I was very disappointed that Cannon Fodder 3 that I worked with didn't come out, because I spent a lot of time working on that, and it was a really amazing design for its time that would have been groundbreaking. In the same way that I was frustrated with Sex, Drugs and Rock and Roll not coming out. Like you work on something that's groundbreaking and then it doesn't get over the line to come out. That's, as a creative person, is really irritating, because you look back in your career at these holes when you didn't do stuff, and it's because you worked on something for 4 years which never saw the
Do you
light of
think
day.
that if Sex, Drugs and Rock and Roll was a different name, it would have had a better chance of coming out?
Possibly, but I mean, the content of it was such that the name change alone wouldn't have masked over the reality of what was in it. I think that it was just unfortunate that we it was unfortunate that we didn't have a good enough 3D programming team at that time to execute our games, any of our games, Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll included. And Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll became a bit like a conversation about what the game should be, with lots of graphics and music and ideas, but not really a running game because the programming was too weak to manage that. And we were piecing it together again with new people in the team and that. But sometimes in game development, you lose like 9 months to a year. We've had that with Social Soccer, actually, where some programming goes wrong. You just got to rip it up and go back to the start again. And we were kind of doing that, but unfortunately we're still in that process when Warner kind of called time on it almost. I'm confident if it had a really good running version of it, playing like a really good point and click adventure in 3D with this funny, offensive but funny content, and you could see it and you could see the context of it, and it was like Viz Magazine or The Young Ones or Spinal Tap, or if you could feel what it felt like because it was running smoothly, I think we'd have been able to sell it because people would have laughed, that have got the humour. But you don't laugh at something which is broken and doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's the problem. You can't make someone laugh with this cartoon that's not animating to get the laugh at the end of it. And that's kind of where we were, really. So it was very hard to, it would have been hard to sell to anyone. The only company that offered money for us for it at all were Virgin. But Virgin wanted a UK only release, and we couldn't make the numbers work out if it was a UK only release, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, it's just as an artist, if you like, as a creative person, it's really gutting to put 4 years in your life in a project that died, and that for me was followed pretty soon afterwards by Cannon Fodder 3, which I put another 2 years into, which also went into a bin. So it's like 6 years, and when you've come off the back of doing, Megalomania, Sensible Soccer, Cannon Fodder, WizKid as the original games. Sensible Golf, okay, that was not quite as we wanted it. But then it was meant to be Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll, Have a Nice Day, and the 3D Sensible Soccer, which wasn't good. And it was meant to be Cannon Fodder 3. And there's just too many things which just dropped. Like it dropped. And I guess when you're not a technical person like me, you don't control those technical things. You can't control. I mean, like at the moment, okay, with Social Soccer, we've got a problem with a couple of these things you've got to go through with Sony. They're very, very technical issues. They're not my bag. It's like, my thought was just, why doesn't it work? But, it just doesn't. And, you're working through machines and it just doesn't work. There's nothing you can do about it. You can get frustrated and angry about it, but it doesn't achieve anything. You're not going to, it's a computer. It does what it wants to do. And I think with Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll, I think maybe if the content were different, we could have sold. What's really gutting? Heavy Rain came out as this like new point and click. Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll was basically the same control thought process as it, but we did it 9 years before. And that's what hurts. That we were there earlier, but we didn't finish it to deliver it. For me as a creator, I like to be first, actually. Like some people like to be the best selling or whatever. I like to be the first.
Yeah.
I like to be the inventor. I like to be the one who was there innovating and doing that thing and pioneering. And of course, we want to make money out of it. I'm not saying we don't, but that's the most important thing to me. So missing that first with Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll really hurt for the next generation of point and click adventures. That hurt a lot. The content was kind of immaterial. It happened to be about a rock band, but it could have been about anything. And then the Cannon Fodder 3 was like, again, squad based in 3D, missions to go and do certain stuff with your Cannon Fodder guys and having spies and mountaineers and stuff
Wasn't
like
that one like the individual people that you controlled? They all had individual skills.
Yeah, exactly. So that would have been really, really good. That would have been like you're on some kind of a spying mission with about like 3 different ways to complete it, and you've got to send your little artillery guy here and your tank here, and then a guy goes in disguise behind the enemy lines, gets information, comes back, those kind of things. It would have been really fun, and I'm sad we didn't get that out. And then what else am I sad about? I designed a game called CCTV, which I made with a company called Nikitova when I was consulting actually in about 2006, 2007. And it was effectively like an animated Where's Wally. So you got all these characters coming out, say, of a shopping mall. And your job was you're a police detective and you had all the CCTV cameras and you had to like, on the camera, you might catch a guy just nicking something out of a shop on one of the cameras. And you had to see him as he's coming out of the crowd and like grab him and then interrogate him and get information about him. And eventually the game was leading you down a crime ring in the town of, you'd find bigger and bigger criminals in certain bars or parks or stuff at night time when it's all shut down. And so it would lead you to this, like, you had a wanted list of the 50 top criminals in the town. You had to like strike them all off by using this like kind of Where's Wally, catching people and then interrogating them. It kind of frustrates me that you can have these great ideas. Or virtual TV was a game I made with another small team called Legba, and that was a great team. In that a great game. In that game, you're like David Attenborough. So you're David Attenborough, the cameraman, running around on an island with dinosaurs on it, and your job is to like make a documentary about the dinosaurs. And you got this kind of script about, look at the dinosaurs laying their eggs in their nest and now they're going off to eat the foliage of the trees, and look at the beautiful sunset. And you're running around with the cameraman and you got to like get to the right location, and then he sets the camera up and then you run in front of the camera and say your lines and then that. But the thing is, the dinosaurs are running around trying to eat you all the time. So you're constantly running away from the dinosaurs, trying not to get eaten on camera, chucking them bits to like chucking them bits of meat to just pacify them for a while, catching a shot and then running away. There was a brilliant little thing, and you ended up with these little film clips, and he put together this mini documentary, like I don't know, one or 2 minutes, and that was it, and that's what you ended up with, a little documentary. And then it got judged, a bit like Pokemon Snap, if you remember that game.
Yeah.
So that's a game I wish we could have made it like all of those games, like that one, and then the CCTV game with the police, and then Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll, and then Cannon Fodder 3. I mean, these are 4 games, and I wanted to make all of them, and none of them came out. And it's that's kind of what frustrates the most when you're making games, is that you didn't make it. When I look at those in that period of time, that's between, for me, like 94, I think I started Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. And then if we go right up to the end of CCTV, that's like 2008. They weren't continuously going on there, but those 4 games all happened between 94 and 2008. That's like 14 years. There's 4 games that didn't happen. One of them's 4 years, one of them's 2 years. Another one's like the other 2 maybe the best part of a year each. That's 8 years.
Yeah.
14. Just gone into nothing. And then now I realise, as you're getting older, like I'm 58 now, you realise you've only got so many years left to be making stuff, and you lost those years. And, it's like, I mean, the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter, but on some level, it's kind of a little disappointing, should we say.
But yeah, it's like, I remember the least said about the Sensible Soccer 98.
Yeah.
Which was, it's almost unplayable. It's
dreadful.
Yeah.
It's dreadful.
For me, it's the camera, as you're running through the pitch, the camera can't keep up. So it's like stuttering along. And it just makes everything seem so broken. And the animation is maybe a quarter of what it should be. So you go to take a shot and it just doesn't move. And
it was just, David, it was horrendous. It's like, I don't know what to say, really. I mean, you sign up to do something with the best intention, with the team, and then you take on people who tell you that they're 3D programmers, and you trust them to be able to do the job. Then you find out like 6 months in that the guy's no good. Then you replace him with another guy who turns out that he's not good either. And I think our problem really was that we'd had such a great run on those 2D games for so long. I mean, we'd had like, I don't know, 8 years pretty much, from the Commodore 64 through to the Amiga, where nearly everything went right. So we thought that we couldn't fail, basically. We slightly felt a little bit untouchable in that department. And we had no idea the extra complexity that adding 3D graphics in was going to cause. It was a seismic jump. And we thought it's just going to be the same as going from the Commodore 64 to the Amiga. It's only going to be like going from 8-bit to 16-bit. What's the big deal? And then we were getting paid loads more money to do it. We're like, oh, this is good. And then too late, we realised that, we'd also been lucky to have good quality programmers, like with Chris Chapman and Julian Jameson and the various other programmers that joined us in those terms. Dave Corn, our programmers from the 2D era. They were all good guys. They knew what they were doing to complement Chris on what he did. And then suddenly we had all these new programmers coming in, and some of them were good and some of them weren't good, and some of them got to something but not something else. And it's too late. You realise too late when the things go wrong, and it costs you, normally it can cost you 9 months to a year of those mistakes.
Yeah.
But the problem is that often your contracts and the way they're drawn up with publishers don't give you that 9 months of a year to play with, to basically go, that was rubbish, let's rip it up and start from the beginning again.
Yeah, a lot of the publishers, they like to give you like every 2-3 months, and they need to see the latest build to make sure that they are keeping on top of what you've said that you're doing.
Yeah, they're milestones, and to a certain extent, and I haven't worked on a milestone contract for a long time myself, but they're good for disciplining your progress. When we did Social Soccer 98, we didn't have any milestones at all. And actually, we had a fantastic contract for that, where we just got paid every month, and that was it. I mean, it was like dream conditions. But in the end, the freedom to like get away with that, if you like, meant that we probably weren't quite disciplined enough because we didn't need to be. Like, we didn't have anyone going, hang on, your footballers aren't even displaying on the screen yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like literally, it was like for 9 months, I think, to a year. There weren't any footballers to make a game happen. There was just the screen just didn't display a graphical world that you could do anything with. Because these are the days when we didn't have Unity or Unreal. You had to make your own 3D engine
Yeah.
to make the game work. And so, people were kind of what can be frustrating when you're making games with different teams, depending on how good the team are at employing people, is you feel like a lot of people are kind of learning on the job. Like, you've employed them and you're used to making kit games. You're used to like being really successful at what you do. And there's this new technology that's been invented. These guys actually have never seen it before. And effectively, they're learning on the job. Well, if I were making a film and I've got some cameraman in to film something and I'm a well-known film director or whatever, I don't want some kid out of college who's just learning. Sometimes that's what we end up with in games if we're not careful. Obviously, you can control who you're employing well, but in those early days of 3D, anyone could say, "Oh, I can do that. Yeah, I'll have a go at that," and you couldn't really prove it, so we didn't really prove that. And even now, sometimes you get people and they're kind of all right, but they're not focused enough. They're not committed enough. They're just not. They don't have that intensity of
Just the drive to carry on.
But it's partly the drive to carry on, but partly the pride in your work is so fierce that you don't put errors into it. It's like a desire to not mess up, and a lot of people, unfortunately, don't have that. Like, I mean, they just lose the focus. They just can't finish. They just don't have that mentality.
Right. So I've mentioned the fact that Sensible Soccer 98 was a disaster.
Yes,
Thank you. And I think I've told you before, Sensible Soccer 06.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was like Codemasters, sort of fully, and you were just there as was that more of a consultancy sort of role to help out?
I was leading the design in that with David Darling. We were doing it together, and that was done by Kuju. I wasn't entirely in control of the development, but yeah.
But yeah, that one I felt was really good. That again had really good passing movement, really snappy. And if it was me back in the marketing days back then, I would have skipped the Xbox version and I'd have launched it on the Xbox 360 because I would have a guess that Social Soccer 06 would have come out the end of like September, October 05.
Yeah.
And the Xbox 360 launched in December 05. And there was no football game available for it. So I think that if they'd have released it on the launch day for the Xbox 360, I still think that the Sensible Soccer name would still be going.
Maybe. It's like, for me, if I'm really honest, I'm quite happy to have Social Soccer instead of Sensible. It's such a legendary game for me. It's the most famous game I've made. I'm kind of glad we're not using the same name. I wouldn't feel all you can do is tarnish it, really. Even if the game's better, people will not like it. It's not the same. I think that, it's okay for me. It's okay for me that Sensible Soccer has had its time, like everything has its time. But we're in the games industry, it's like we don't work on a stable platform at all. We work on temporary platforms that are hard to work with. And a lot of the reason you see so much copycat and Me Too gaming is because they're faster to make. You can get them out on the platform whilst it's still alive. You don't need particularly talented designers when you're doing copycat stuff. You don't even need great. Well, I suppose you need good artists and really good engineers that can replicate and copy well. Um, so yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter, Dave. In the big scheme of things, it doesn't matter. Everything is going to finish at some point. With a bit of luck, it will start. We're lucky with social soccer. We're having such a long start with it. We've been kind of like coming out of the blocks for years and years and years. Uh, and we're still yet to really make that significant marketing push on the game because we haven't really done it yet. I mean, Apple do it a bit for you, and then if they stop, that's it. Rogue never really pushed that for us. We've, like I said, not put really any money into the Steam version yet because too many things weren't aligned for that to be the right time to do it. So once we've got the game where everything, like now, the version we've got now is at a point where the PC version's had 6 months to be perfected and honed and tuned on the Social Soccer 24 content roster. And this console version's coming out in a lot better shape actually than had it come out in November, which you mentioned on the Switch initially, which would have had it with all the rough edges and stuff which were there in the first release of Social Soccer on the PC. So what is great is it's been able to be honed for people. So I'm really looking forward to the response for people when they get it soon. Let's see how we do. Let's see what you guys think. Do you agree with David? It's the best arcade football game ever.
So where we're standing at the minute is there is the PC version out now.
Yep.
It will be getting a nice update within the next month.
Yep.
And hopefully when that update happens, there will be a Switch version to go alongside it.
It will be, yep.
And then a month or two after that, then it'll be on the Xbox and the PlayStation sort of stores.
PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and Xbox One.
Sounds good. So
that is the plan. That's why this is taking so long to execute because there's so many platforms to go wrong. They just click the button and they will work, but they don't. Yeah.
So when the Xbox version comes out, I will have to buy a physical copy so you can sign the cover, so it can go up on the wall with the other copies I've got downstairs.
Absolutely.
And that'd be absolutely perfect. So thank you so much for coming on. I know I said it'd just be a 10-minute chat. And we're here like an hour and 20 minutes later.
It's 10 minutes is bit. Yeah.
But no, I wish you all the success. As I say, the game as it is at the moment is a super fun game to play. And it just needs that time to build to actually get the more content, the more bits and bobs into the actual game.
Yeah, it's very much like the difference between Sensible Soccer and SWOS. Like, it's really kind of at a Sensible Soccer kind of level now in terms of content. SWOS was really the polished full article. So, yeah, I just hope that now you've said it's great. I hope we don't mess it up with the changes we made. Can you tell me it's not as good as you thought it was before? That would be terrible. You never know when you're doing it, but I'm pretty confident people are going to be happy with it and like it, and give it a spin, get excited by it, play it, and it would be great for people to talk about it and let other people know that the game's there and it's fun and something new in the market as well. Because I don't know how many football games there are on the Switch, for example, but there's not that many actually. Not with proper licensed players, very few.
Yeah. I mean, like the only game that I've played that is getting on to having decent playability is a game called, I think it's called Natural Soccer.
Oh, I've heard of Natural Soccer, yeah.
And I think that's just a one-guy team or a just very small team. And I think they only do like updates every couple of years. So... Yeah. But I felt that had decent... It was a lot slower. It's more tactical sort of. But that felt really nice. But yeah, I just think that the way football games are at the minute, you have I was going to say FIFA, but it's not the EA Sports one.
Yeah.
You have the old PES, which is now eFootball.
Yep.
And the rest of them that have come out recently, I hate to badmouth him, but Dino Dini's Kickoff Revival,
Uh-huh.
that game was almost as bad as Sensible Soccer 98, in my
That's
opinion.
harsh. Oh, that's harsh. Yeah.
And yeah, I think that actually came out brand new in box for like $9.99.
I mean, Dino's a one-man band.
Yeah,
There's only so much you can do. It's hard now to, I told you how many people we've got on Social Soccer 25 now that we're doing, really. Um, it's hard to do something with one person. It's just, there's just so much to do. It's just an overwhelming volume of work to execute. So, yeah.
yeah. I mean, like I say, I don't like to like badmouth developers because a lot of them they do put their heart and soul into it and they really want the best. Just
Yeah.
sometimes the game just doesn't come together. I mean, you can have like multi-million-dollar games that. I mean, I think they were saying that one of the was it the new-ish God of War, the 2018 one.
Mm-hmm.
Sony were worried about it, and it was only the last 3 months of development where it all slotted in together, and it became like basically Game of the Year material.
Yeah, it's like the polish. So I was just thinking then, like, even with the game as we go, you can always see ways you can improve it. Like the game, Social Soccer is playing really, really well as a two-player game, particularly now. Like single player against AI is good, playing online is good, playing two people in the same room against each other is amazing. Like it's so fast and snappy, and you 100% feeling control of everything you're doing. But maybe the game can even push itself up by just, I don't know, the animations when they score, or the way the ball hits the bar and bounces down, or these little things that you can improve to make dramatic moments without detracting from the gameplay. But the modern gamer kind of expects certain things, and it's keeping that playability. But all those little bits that I say to the team all the time, like, we're not going to make this game better by adding one amazing feature. We're going to make it better by improving each thing in the game by 1 or 2%.
Yeah,
Then the 1 or 2% add up to like a 20% improvement. It's like it's not there's not massively big wins here. There are and you make gambles. Like we're adding a few features for 25 that aren't in 24. Some of them are obvious, and some of them are not obvious. But you just think, well, this just might be the thing which just gets the game to be viral. What our game is not at the moment is viral, and these days in the games market, you need some form of some viral content within the game, purely so that people can share it with other people, so that other people know it's there and want to play it. So we have been we've not got to that very sophisticated marketing stage yet. And what we're doing, we kind of like, I guess because we've got so many platforms we're trying to execute at once, we kind of like sometimes dilute our focus a little bit on that. But it's impossible to do everything, But we're getting there.
as you say, you want it out at a certain standard, and then moving forward, slightly move everything up and up and up.
No, it's like, yeah, if you've got these 10 things and one thing goes up like that, and then you get the next one, then the next one, you try and balance them all so they all go up, and then you
Yeah,
start them again and you go up again. That's how it works.
yeah.
But yeah, occasionally you get the odd thing which just is magic and just like transforms the game. And we've got plenty of room. There's plenty more stuff to go with this game. I think that the real thing is getting a strong identity for the game, differentiating it a lot from what people's expectation is. Something like EA Sports FC. The thing is, FIFA's had such a long run up there, with Pro Evo there sometimes and not other times. PES, and people's expectation of football games are only like that. And we've got to, we're still in that phase of establishing, no, you can do it this way. You can have all these licenses, but it can be a bit more fun. It can be faster, and it can be, just get a slightly different feeling from it. Get a bit more adrenaline from playing the game. Get a bit of that feeling of, like every second counts, every millisecond counts. When you're turning, and that stress you feel, like release, with cortisol or whatever it is in your body that's been released, it actually excites you and makes you want to go back and do it again. And that's the kind of thing that we're trying to achieve with the game. As which is the reason people play sensible soccer still today.
But it's like, for me, the biggest difference between the EA Sports and social soccer is one of them, I think, looks absolutely breathtaking, and I can just sit and watch someone play the game. Whereas the other one, I want to play the game.
Yeah.
I think social soccer it's got that playability, whereas the FIFA, for me, it's too slow, it's too scripted, it's too trying to look like real TV, and it just
Yeah.
takes that fun away.
I mean, it's made its own. It's made its own set of features that everyone expects, and it's set its own style out. And like you say, it does it extremely well. I mean, it's brilliant.
Yeah,
It does it brilliantly. But it doesn't matter the best cruiser boat in the world you've got, it's still going to turn like. It's not going to turn like a really supremely tuned speedboat that you can flick around in the water. That's the difference, and that's kind of what it is. It's like we're something where you get a little bit of a rush out of playing it when you get it right. When you get those stringing passes together and you curl a shot in the top corner and it comes off the bar and hits the floor and you're like, yeah, that was me did that. One great thing about the game now is people never ever blame the controls for their mistakes. It's them. They know that. They
yeah,
feel enough control that they don't do that. So that's something we've cracked, which is hard. I think the ability to tackle in the game has improved a lot. The ability to defend is now really, really good fun. You can get in last minute blocks and stuff like that. I think online the game is very good. I think sometimes the speed of the game, which is very, very fast, sometimes you get a small lag in it. You actually get a few more red cards online than you do offline because you can just click someone's heel more easily because you just lose a couple of frames. It's that sensitive. It's that fast, the game. But I mean, we're about to really go places with this thing. When everyone understands who we're now working with and what we're now doing, they're going to understand that we're going to take our game into a different place and we're going to be approaching football in games from a different angle to everybody else. That's what we're going to do next. So
well, I wish you
watch this
all the
space.
best, all the best.
Yeah,
And I am
thank you.
so sorry for taking 2 hours of your time.
That's all right. It's okay. I'm a night person, like you said. It's just gone midnight.
Yeah.
So, okay,
So
David.
anyway,
Meet
thank
you
you
again.
so much. Thank you.
Take care, mate. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Hey y'all, this is Bob. I used to be one of the first members of the One Up Gaming team. I used to write reviews, edit them, and share stories on general gaming news between 2013 and 2015. And that's why I was super excited when David asked me to be part of the 400th episode of the podcast. Look at how far we've come. I can't wait for what's next for One Up Gaming. And hey, I'll always be a part of the team. Take care, y'all.
So we're back after that quick break. It's still One Up Gaming. It's still me, David. It's episode 400, and I found I would like to say one of our original team members.
I'd say founding member. Yeah, I'd be founding member. I was around in the beginning.
I can't even remember when. I'd have to go back to the old podcasts to see when people came onto the show.
I mean, I think I came around the first couple of episodes. I think around like episode 20-ish. I think. I could be very off with that number, but I think it was around 2030s when like episode 20, episode 30, between there is when I first came on.
Because I know I did the first, I think 4 or 5 on my own. And then I think Nathan was like one of the first that was on with me. Was it Nathan?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was one of the first ones, yeah. Damn. That was a long time ago.
Yeah,
That
it's
was a really long
stupid.
time ago.
2012, I think.
Oh, Jesus.
And like I say, I mean, I don't know about you. There's only been a few people that I remember the names of. I don't know if that's how bad my memory is,
I
but it's
mean,
like there was you, there was Nathan, there was Matt,
yeah,
there was Evie. I
yeah,
can't
yeah,
remember
yeah,
I can't remember what her sister was called.
yeah. I don't remember either. I
Was it
I
Mel?
remember.
Mel?
I think so. Maybe.
Yeah,
To be completely clear, I don't remember either of them. I remember
yeah,
Matt. I remember Matt.
yeah.
Um,
I remember we had, was it, there was a Ryan from America, I think.
yes, 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 yes. I remember him. That was a while ago. That was a really long time ago.
Yeah, we started off doing a second podcast doing an F1 show, but unfortunately, we only did like 2 episodes, then it just stopped. So, my good friend,
Yes.
after your review on our website, which I don't even know if it actually went up or not, the one that you just said was absolutely crap and all the people involved should have been killed.
Oh, some of my best work. Some of my best work. Some of my best writing work. I stick. Look, I will say this, and it sounds harsh, but that game was fucking bad. It was really bad. I know everything that goes into making a game, right? I get it. I get it's difficult. I get it's time consuming. But Jesus fucking Christ, when I get stuck in a rock in the first 2 minutes, it's not a game. It's barely a slideshow. It's fucking terrible. Um, yeah, no, that was the worst thing I've ever played to this day, and I stick by that. I stick by that
Good.
completely. But speaking of game,
Yeah,
um, the industry has changed. The industry has changed since we first started this.
yeah,
Like, what, back in 2012, no one could have imagined anything like Game Pass. We kind of had like GeForce Now. That was a thing back then, which was fucking wow. That was fucking awful. But I think it's better now. It was fucking
there was
awful.
I think there was called On Live. I think that was
Oh my
2014,
God.
2015.
Sweet
But
Jesus. Yeah.
I think with that one, you paid for the service and then you also had to pay for the games.
Yeah, that was a bad. I don't understand how that worked, but that was a bad idea.
I got sent
Um,
a I got sent a code so I could use it for a year,
jeez.
and like all the games were included, so whatever was on their service I could play.
Oh, that's
But
lucky.
like all internet-based streaming services back then, it was nigh on unplayable. It was an absolute
Yeah.
disgrace.
You couldn't get the speeds that you could get now.
Yeah.
But it's like the industry's changed so much. Back in the day, we used to think, well, like, and I'm gonna talk about the Xbox thing. I don't know if you've already spoken about it on the show or not.
I don't really do that
Um,
much news anymore. I just do a little bit of talking to the camera and a little bit of the games being played, and that's about it.
I will say this. Um, it's a scary time to be a developer. It is a scary time to be in the industry as a whole
Yeah.
on any level because you're not safe. There is no job security, not really, because you have Xbox closing 4 studios that they bought. They bought
Yeah.
and were like, yeah, we're gonna stick by these studios. So, and immediately, and then like, fucking, I think what, a year, 2 years later, shut them down. I'm like, God damn. And then fucking, what was it? I forgot the game. Oh right, Ubisoft brought out a bunch of games. They were like, we're working on all this different stuff. And then I think it was today or yesterday they spoke about. No, it was today. They closed production. They stopped production on one of their free to play games that they were working on for like 4-ish years, and they just shut production down on that out of fucking nowhere.
To be fair though, I think some of these games would have been better off shut down and not being released to the general public.
Oh, there are a lot of games I can say that. There's a lot of games I can say that about.
Because I remember back in the day when Half-Life, the original Half-Life, was going to be coming out on the Sega Dreamcast.
Yeah.
And the game was fully finished, fully done. All the gold copies went out to reviewers. Everyone started reviewing the game, and then all of a sudden they just cancelled it. And they basically said, in America, if you make a game and don't release it, you get all the tax back that you've worked on for those 2, 3, 4 years. And they said that they would make more money getting the tax back by not releasing the game than actually releasing the game.
Do you think that's what's happening now?
I think what's happening now, I'd love to see numbers, but I think because of COVID, all the studios went like mobile, so they all went like in their own homes, working from home. And to do that, you need 2 to 3 extra people per team to actually make the numbers up to keep it going. Whereas if you're in an office, it's a lot easier to see what's happening and what's going on and keep on top of all the progress. So I just think that they must have upped the manpower to keep games coming. And now that they're all going back to the offices, they're all like, we've got like 50 people too many per team. You know, but I mean, I might be wrong, but I would love to see what the hiring numbers were a couple of years ago to see what they are now and what they were 2 years before COVID to see if there is a correlation to that.
I feel like with COVID, I feel like a lot of especially games, got very overconfident during COVID because people were stuck inside. They didn't have much to do. Everyone played games. Everyone bought consoles. Everyone bought games because they didn't have anything else to do. A lot of people didn't. And they saw that uptick and they were like, oh, we're going to make this last for as long as physically possible. And they got overconfident with those numbers and they want those numbers. They don't want any other numbers. They want those numbers. That's not a thing that's going to happen. What's going to happen is those numbers aren't going to get reached again. You're not going to reach the same amount. You're not going to have the same amount of people playing concurrently. You're not going to have the same amount of people like invested in games around like all at once. It's not going to happen. I feel like that's a hard truth that needs to be told. And I feel like especially Microsoft spread themselves way too thin. They bought Bethesda, which I'm still scratching my head about, to be completely honest. I understand why, kind of, not really, but kind of. I get why you would want to buy Bethesda, but it feels like you don't have the financial stability to keep it running.
Oh, they do. They're the richest company in the world.
Yeah, Microsoft is. Like, let's be completely honest. Xbox is the unwanted child of Microsoft. They're the kid, they're the weird kid. They're the one that like everyone else is doing, like, you know, operating software, laptops, PCs, and then Xbox is over here being like, I made a box. as much as like Microsoft wants them to succeed, they can't keep funneling money in. They just can't. It's not something that companies do.
But
right?
If you look at it from the other way, they've bought Bethesda, and Bethesda have the Elder Scrolls Online and Fallout 76, both games completed and done, and they're just bringing in like millions and millions of dollars every month by active players playing those games.
Yeah, but they're not bringing in enough because you have to remember.
I think they are. Those
no,
two
because
games.
You have to remember they spent money. Like Microsoft's problem is they spend more money acquiring things than they do getting back. Right? So they spent money on Bethesda, and they were hoping for, like, remember Starfield? When Starfield came out, everyone thought that was going to be the game. That was going to be a thing that brought everyone to Xbox. Game Pass sales were going to go through the roof. And then Starfield was kind of meh. It's a good game. Don't get me wrong. I love flying and shit. It's great. But there's not much else to do. You know, you finish the game once, you can finish it maybe twice, 2 more times, and then you're kind of bored, and it's over. and that takes you about, if you're not trying to do everything at once, it's going to take you about 60 hours. And then after that, 60, 70 hours. And then after that, you're done. Like, that's it. Like, you're finished. The game's done. And they can keep adding stuff and adding new things. And yeah, maybe the game will become something that people can keep playing forever. But I don't see that happening. I really don't. And Xbox put a lot of eggs in that basket, bought studios and development teams and everything else with the understanding that, hey, this is going to be a game that will be not just a flagship, but something to carry us over. And it's going to carry over other games. It's going to allow us to put production onto other games, and those games are going to be successful. But I don't think it's about success anymore. I think it's about money. It's about the amount of money they can bring in to cover the losses that they have gained from not selling enough consoles, from losing Game Pass subscribers, to even just like not having enough games on Game Pass that people actually want to play. Because they bought Activision, and Activision cost a lot of money. But the only the only game that they brought onto Game Pass that people actually want to play from Activision is Diablo 4. And that's like, yeah, granted, Diablo 4 is Diablo 4, but that ain't gonna carry your entire investment. And sure, you can bring COD on, but COD makes more money in sales, so it doesn't really need to be on Game Pass. They could put the previous CODs onto Game Pass, and sure, people would love that.
I think COD
all
will
that, put it
be on Game Pass day one
I hope
because
it does. I hope they don't. I hope they don't, because they're going to
they
so
will
much money.
basically say you can buy this game for $70 on PC or PlayStation 5, or you can get an Xbox and pay the monthly subscription and you're basically getting like the game included with the subscription. So Microsoft paid all this money for all these developers for one simple reason. They were seeing that the Xbox console and brand wasn't going up. They were struggling like crazy. So the Xbox division went to Microsoft and said, we need to do something crazy to try and get the uptake of consoles. So they bought Bethesda, and they couldn't say that all the games were going to be Xbox exclusive. They could say that, oh yeah, at the moment we're looking at an exclusivity, this, that, the other, but they couldn't confidently say that these games are going to be Xbox exclusive forever. For the simple reason, Microsoft, the company as a whole, will be watching the graphs of consoles sold, money coming in, Game Pass subscriptions, and if that didn't hit a certain number by a couple of months ago, then Microsoft would be like, right, this isn't working. You've absolutely spunked a lot of money on stuff and it hasn't helped at all. We now need to get these games that are already finished and done, getting ported over to the PlayStation, getting ported over to the Switch, because we physically can't sell the games because we don't have enough Xboxes out to buy, for people to buy the games. So, but their first thoughts were, we will buy these big name publishers, get them under the Xbox brand, and very vaguely say, oh yeah, the games will be exclusive to Xbox. So you had to buy the Xbox to get the games. But because they haven't had any big games in 2 years, no one's bought an Xbox, and it's got to the point of it's too late. The Xbox brand or the Xbox Series X has just gone, like no one cares. So the uppers are like, right, we don't care where people play the games. We just want the money coming in. Get these games out to as many people as you can.
My whole thing is, my whole thing is this, right? When it comes to building the Xbox brand, I feel like they've done a really shitty job.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say why, and it is very true. They need to stop buying studios. It is a fact. Stop buying shit. Stop buying shit. Start working with people. Start making more exclusives, more like working together with indie devs and medium-sized dev teams, because the problem that they're running into is that they have all of these studios, but no games are coming out fast enough. And then they're gonna say, well, we need smaller indie games. We need small games that take less time to make, but are still like bringing people in. You're looking for a Goldilocks effect when you shouldn't be. You crafted the circumstances in which you find yourself. None of this should be happening. You made this a thing because you kept buying shit up without thinking. Like imagine someone who's just not good with money, right? We just give them a lot of money and they just splurge. They just start buying shit. They don't think about what they're buying. They just buy shit. And they wonder why they have no money left. They wonder why they've run out of money in a month. Because you're not thinking about what you're buying. You're just buying shit. You bought Activision. That's wonderful. And Activision comes out with a yearly game like clockwork. Great. Means fuck all if you can't actually monetize it properly. And that's the issue I saw with Bethesda. Bethesda's games come out fucking slowly. They come out once every 5, 4, 6 years. Like before Starfield, what was Bethesda's last game? Because I don't remember it. I think it was
Fallout 4.
Fallout 4.
Well, I guess
Fallout 4
Fallout 76 was like newer, but the main single player game, yeah, Fallout 4. And then before that was like Fallout 3.
Fallout 4 came out when?
Oh God, 2018?
It took them, doing some generous maths here, yeah, 4 years. 4 to 5 years to bring out Starfield.
2015 it came out.
Fucking hell, that's even worse. That's even worse. There's so much worse. That's 7 to 8 years, right? 7 to 8 years. I'll give them
They got the Fallout 76 in between them as well.
Yeah. But let's be 100%. When Fallout 76 first came out, it was shit. People can look at it all rosy now, but when it came out, it was shit. So it took them 7 to 8 years to bring out a game. That is not a studio you can hang your hat on and say they're gonna bring in money. That doesn't make sense. You can't wait that long for a fucking game. Especially when you're a studio or when you're a publisher that is, let's be fair, probably in the red.
I mean, the other problem is they probably also bought Bethesda maybe 10 years too late.
Oh, yeah.
Because for me,
Ubisoft
it was Skyrim and Fallout 3 were massively AAA sort of games. And I think everything else that's come out after those games, they might have been good, but they've gone from 10s to like a 7. So now the games coming out after Microsoft's bought them, like Starfield, it might still be like a 7 out of 10, but people's expectations are still like 5, 6 years earlier when, Skyrim that was coming out, when they're like, everything they do is gold. But I just think that a lot of developers over the last 5 years, unless they've put like $300 million into the game, are a bit of a disappointment.
You know what it is? I heard this. I heard someone say this before, like a couple of days ago. AA games are where actual innovation and like good games are coming out. I'm not saying AAA games aren't good. I'm not saying that at all. Those developers put in time, work, and those games come out. They're not given
But
enough time. I will
the
say that
problem
now.
is they don't
AAA
sell.
developers, no, but that's the thing. AAA developers aren't given enough time and freedom to actually develop those games into what they should be. I will
Yeah.
say that now, right? Because you had the same. We had like there was a discussion before. I think it was like a year ago about creative decisions being made within Ubisoft and how the creative director would basically be the person. The creative director and game director would be the person. Would be the people who basically just made all the decisions, right? And developers themselves had very little leeway and very little like influence on how the game would come out, what features there would be, that type of thing. It would all be on the top level, and the people actually like the developers themselves would have very little say in how things were made. And I think that's more industry wide than we want to actually say. Because the way I look at it is like this: if you're going to step in and buy these studios, especially Activision, especially something like Blizzard, if you're gonna step in and buy these studios, at least for the love of fucking God, restructure, make it in some way more efficient to the game plan that you have ahead. I'm not saying take full control. I ain't saying now. Ooh, I am saying have some game plan in mind other than let's see what they make, because that's not a plan. That's waiting, and you're not sitting in a queue waiting at a chippy. You are making games that are supposed to be selling for millions. So don't wait for shit to happen. Make some shit happen. A lot of these AAA studios, put them on AA games. They have the resources to make AAA games. Put them on some AA games. Put them on some passion projects. I guarantee you the games that they spit out will be amazing. Tango Gameworks, the studio that was shut down that made Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush is one of the most highly acclaimed games of last
Yeah,
year.
but over the last year, they've lost all their leadership. You know, so I think it got to the point of they just it's like the main guy, the guy who did all the Resident Evil stuff, he quit like a year ago, and there was like 3 or 4 other high up execs that have all left. So I just think that yes, it's shit. Yes, they've made some bloody good games, but I do think that the way Xbox games is at the minute, they're like, well, this studio's lost all of its development talent, all of its thinking, and its where it's going. By the time we hire new people in and start a new project, it's another 3, 4, 5 years. So we might as well just cut them off now and just save the money.
Yeah, but instead of doing that, they could have integrated them into another studio.
Yeah, but they don't have any of the studios in Japan.
But that's my whole point. That is my whole point. Like,
but in Japan,
that's exactly what I'm saying.
In Japan, Sony, which has come to light, have deals in place that don't allow certain games to go onto the Xbox, don't allow developers to work on the Xbox because of how good Sony's doing over there.
I understand that. Like, Sony has a stranglehold on like the Eastern market. I understand that completely. But this is what I'm saying. Microsoft can't be closing studios in markets in which they don't have a foothold in when they're in the position that they're in. This is when you integrate, regardless of the difficulty that would come from it. It's not like they don't have the resources to do it. They can do it. They can integrate people from that studio or people into that studio. They can do that because they have the resources to do that. To act like they don't is crazy. Because again, this is Microsoft we're talking about. This isn't some other like low-level publisher or like fucking the Roku. This is fucking Microsoft. They have the resources. They're just not using them. You bought fucking Activision. All of Activision's resources are at your fingertips. Use them. You have Raven Software. You have fucking Sledgehammer Games. You have all of these amazing developers. You have all of these amazing teams. Use them. Shit, Bethesda ain't doing shit. Use them.
And it's like, I know a lot of people were pissed off about the Arcane Austin getting closed. But when you think about it, I believe what's happened with them is that Microsoft or Bethesda, like, because I think their game was like in development, Redfall, before the Microsoft bought them. I think that their team completely got changed because they were going more for a like a always online like game, not a single player sort of focused game. So I think that a lot of the developers and a lot of the skilled people working on that team got moved somewhere else to do single player stuff. And then this Arcane Austin, a lot of the multiplayer focused developers got moved into that team to get Redfall up and running. And I just think that now Redfall's come out, it's been a disaster. Again, Microsoft just looked at it and like, this team is full of people just for multiplayer online games. And we don't need that. We don't want that. And all the single player developers had already been moved over to other teams. So they were just like, right, we just close it, get rid of it. We don't need it.
This is the thing with Microsoft. I feel like Microsoft doesn't have, because this is where I'm going to disagree with you a bit, right? Whether they moved people from team to team or not, you put the mandate, you're in charge. So if Redfall was in development before you bought Bethesda and you saw it was a multiplayer game and you're like, you know what, Arcane Austin isn't known for multiplayer games. Why don't we try and shift this into a more co-op single player type of experience without a lot of the online things, without a lot of the live service?
I think it was
Why don't we
already
do that
2,
instead?
3 years in development before they got
But
bought.
But this is what I'm saying. It's not like they don't have the resource. Again, this is what I'm saying. This is Xbox. It's not like they don't have the resources to do that. It's not like they don't have the resources to say, hey, Redfall's coming out and it's going to be co-op and single player. We're switching it from live service. Because they can do that. They can speak to gamers and be like, you know what? We know that you don't want more live service games. You have enough games telling you, hey, log in every day. You have enough of that. Here's a co-op single player experience. They didn't do that. They said, live service ain't dead yet and you still have money in your wallet. Give it to me. They didn't care about the impact it would have. They didn't care about I don't know if they cared about the quality or not. I'm not going to speak on shit I don't know. But what I do know is the quality that game came out with isn't what Arcane Austin is capable of doing. They are capable of so much more. And the reason it came out the way it did, my belief is that there was more of a mandate to commercialize than there was to actually make a game people want to play. And that's been the mandate for a lot of live service games. It's been sell shit.
I think it's get it to a certain standard and get it out so we can start making money from it.
That's what I'm saying, because think of it like this, right? A lot of publishers, they want games that they can continuously make money from. It's the same reason we have fucking Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad is a good game. Like, it is. Like, the mechanics of that game are fucking nice. Like, genuinely, it is a fun game to play. Movement mechanics, shooting, it is actually fun. The powers are fun to use. The game it's in, fuck me, it's awful. The game it's in is fucking garbage. It's so bad. It is
like
so
the
bad.
game that came out, was it last year, the year before, is it the team, the Titans, whatever it was called?
Did it?
The one that came out a couple of years ago where you don't control Batman, you control like Robin and Nightwing. I actually really
Gotham Knights,
enjoyed that game. I really enjoyed
That's my whole point. That is my whole point, right? These type of games, like the games in which you don't have, that aren't live service, do so well. Do so well because people don't want to constantly be told, hey, buy things. People don't want that. And it's like these it's like publishers haven't caught up with the rest of the general gaming community or just public in general, because a lot of the games that even casual players, like the laymen out there, are playing aren't really live service. They're games in which you're not incentivized to buy anything. You can just kind of log on, play, and then fuck off if you want to. But with Microsoft now, I don't see that happening, because they're going into damage control. They're not trying to like make these studios thrive. They're going into damage control. They're trying to get out of the red as much as physically possible so they can start releasing more shit so that they can get back into the green. When that will happen, I have no idea. But the last thing,
I think it's quite far gone for the Xbox Series X and S. I honestly think that the Microsoft team said that we'll let you buy these studios, we'll give you 2 years, and if it hasn't reached a certain point, which it hasn't reached, it's then right, release all these games on PlayStation, and instead of being 4 years' time, in 2 years' time, we'll release the next Xbox to get a head start over Sony.
You know what it is as well? There's something else on top of that. My theory, and this is just me, I don't know if anyone agrees with me on this. The S should have been a handheld. The S should have been a handheld. It should have been Xbox's version of the Steam Deck. That's what I believe.
But so that's what the rumor is at the minute, that's the next sort of like console that they're going to release.
That's what they should have brought out as either a companion or just something else.
I don't think 4 years ago, I don't think they could have had a handheld device powerful enough to play the Xbox sort of games.
I mean, when did the Steam Deck first come out?
That's only been out a couple of years.
Fair enough. I'll give them that.
But you got to remember, if something did come out, Xbox wanted that $250, $300 price point. Whereas if you're having like a Steam Deck 4.5, 5 years ago, that would have been about 800 quid.
That's fair too.
Whereas now they could probably get like the Xbox sort of standard out there for like $350, maybe $400.
I still think that the handheld would have been a good idea, and the reason I say that is this: they could have brought out, made it like a super powerful version of a PSP, of a PSVR, like a even stronger version of a PSVR, and then be like, oh, 3-4 years later, boom, refresh, new one, complete new shit in it, more powerful, better battery life, da 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 da. They could have done it, and then 2 years after that, new refresh, new screen, new battery. Buy it if you want to. Next, boom, and you can keep going. And that would have been the Game Pass machine. Why? Because there is no reason for it not to be. Because this is the thing that I'm seeing, and this is the thing that I'm noticing a lot. More middle of the road games, like AA games, are coming out on Steam and PC than on console. Because they see it as, okay, people have all of these different machines, from the Steam Deck to the ROG Ally to the Legion Go. They have all of these different machines, right? But they're all still using Steam. So we have a much bigger audience now. We have a much bigger like population of players to advertise to and who might want to play our game. So all we really have to do is make it compatible with the Steam Deck, and it's going to be compatible with the rest of them. We might need to make some changes here and there, but it's not going to be that much of a difference. Then what? They corner that market. Steam has PC down, handhelds down. Xbox is left with what? They don't have PC. PC Game Pass is fine. It is good. I ain't gonna say it's not. But is it good enough for people not to use Steam? Hell no. And Game Pass on console. Again, I love it. It don't change the fact that it don't take anyone away from PlayStation or PC. And that's my whole point. As wonderful as this all sounds, right? Hypothetically, being like, oh, well, they didn't have the resources to do it. Long-term thinking, they should have done it anyway. You're making a streaming service, a game streaming service. Handheld. Easy. First thought you have. Why? Because even if it's not fucking amazing, you can refresh that bit in 4 or 5 years and be like, new and improved. And people will buy it. Because there will be new games out. There'll be reasons for developers to be like, you know what? I actually want to make it on that because it'll be easier for people to play. It'll be easier for people to consume. People can let their kids play. Other people, like, you know what I mean? It allows you to have a bigger audience. Xbox isn't thinking of that. They're thinking, how do we make the most money? You ain't gonna make no money if no one makes a game for your console. And it sucks, but it's true.
I think we've had enough depressing this time. There's 1 minute left of this Zoom recording facility thing. Do you have anything else to say? Do you have anything else more positive to say for 1 minute?
It's not more positive, I ain't gonna lie to you. But I am gonna say this one thing. The new Assassin's Creed got released. Not released, got announced. And it is based in Japan. It is Assassin's Creed Shadows. And I want to say one thing and one thing only. Everyone complaining about the character choices in which you have in that game, which are a samurai and a ninja. You have a female Japanese ninja, and you have a historical figure, Yusuke, who is a black samurai. He is historical. He existed. Why you're upset that he's in the game, I'm not going to say, because I don't want to get David in trouble. What I am going to say is, obviously, I know, and you know, that you don't actually care about historical accuracy because you're playing a test.
A few moments later.
So, you were going on about the words that you didn't want to use about people being maybe racist?
A little bit, yeah. Shit, I'll just go off from there. You work your editing magic. But let me get back to what I was saying. You cannot complain about historical accuracy or the nationality and or like anything to do with accuracy in a Assassin's Creed game. You had you had an Italian in I think it was Assassin's Creed 3. Was it Assassin's Creed 3 when they went to Turkey? You had an Italian main character.
Yeah, three was when they were in America, weren't they?
Yes, 3 was in America. 3 was in America in which they made George Washington a mage. The man had the golden apple and he was turning himself into a king. Granted, that was DLC.
Yeah, but was he still white?
Yeah, of course he was still white. But this is my whole point. Yusuke is still a real person. He's still a real person. The only part of his history we do not know is what happened to him after Oda Nobunaga died. Because he was his samurai. And I swear to God, if a person says he was his retainer, you could be a retainer and a samurai, motherfucker. I swear to Christ. It was a time period in which you could not carry a sword without being a samurai. If you were carrying a sword of a certain length without being a samurai, crime. Hence, he was a samurai. It can't be more plain than that. It can't. And it's the weirdest thing too, because Japanese studios have no issue putting him in games, right? They have no issue putting him in games as a samurai or as whenever they put in Oda Nobunaga, he's always there. Like they have no issues doing that. But for some reason, in the West, a certain type of person, I'm trying to be very democratic here, I'm gonna stop being very democratic, but I'm gonna keep trying. A certain type of person has an issue whenever they see him because they're like, "Well, black people weren't in Japan." Yes, they were. They really were. So I don't understand. I don't understand how you can say this shit because it feels like you either have no idea what you're speaking about or you're just being racist. That's it. Because what you're saying has no basis in history and has no basis in Japanese history or the history of the region as a whole. So it just feels fucking stupid. It feels so fucking dumb. Because the one thing I keep seeing is the people keep equating this to like diversity and inclusion. The DEI thing that everyone's pissed off about for some fucking reason.
It's not about all that woke stuff, is it?
Oh my god, yeah, that. They're like, oh, it's all woke. I'm like, motherfucker. These are video games. Video games have always been woke. I hate to break this to whoever has never heard this before. Maybe you weren't paying attention. Media literacy is hard for some people. You can't read. That's okay. I understand.
I mean, I don't know if you've seen it or
Released.
not.
Woke in some way.
Have you seen the new Doctor Who?
Yeah.
I've watched the first episode of the new season, and I only knew about it. It was out because there was a load of stuff online about how they've destroyed the franchise. It's no longer Doctor Who, all this, that, the other. And I watched it, and it's like, he seems a likable lead character. He seems a nice guy. He seems like the Doctor, overconfident, like stupid, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then it turns out that it's because a shape-shifting alien can't be black or gay. And
this is what
I was like, what the fuck are you on about? It's an alien. It can be whatever the hell they want.
These people watch these shows and they don't understand. Like, they watch them, but they don't. Again, I chalk this up to media literacy, or they're just stupid. One of the two. But they watch these shows and they don't realize what they're watching. It's like when people are like, "Oh, Star Wars has never been woke." Are you crazy? Are you genuinely crazy? Are we watching the same thing? Or like fucking Star Trek has never been woke. Are you out of your damn mind? The craziness that comes out of these people's mouths, I genuinely think they're the personification of a fake fan. You know how when like someone says they like anime or they like video games and they get like 101 questions about like, oh, what's your favorite? What have you seen this anime from the 70s? Like all this shit. They get all those questions because people want to gatekeep shit. These are the motherfuckers you're supposed to be keeping out. These motherfuckers. The ones that like watch the thing, but they know nothing about it. Like it literally, I swear to God, it's like they're just watching it for the pretty colors and the sounds. Like, you know when you put a baby in front of a TV and they don't understand what's going on, but they just like how things move? It's that. That's what's happening. It's like, iPad time.
I can understand if the people were saying that the script, the direction, the story of the new Doctor Who was absolutely crap and didn't make sense. I agree with that. But they don't mention any of that. They're just going about the black gay actor.
Because this is the thing. I'm not a Doctor Who fan. I will say that right now. I am not a Doctor Who fan in any way, shape, or form. I kind of like seeing little clips of it because it's kind of a cool show. I just can never be bothered to like watch it. I can't be fucked. I will say this though. One thing I know about Doctor Who is the man's ridiculous. Nothing he does makes sense. His time travel is called timey-wimey shit. He uses a sonic screwdriver that can do many things that a screwdriver shouldn't be able to do. And I don't even think it's sonic. I just think he calls it a sonic screwdriver. He travels time and space in a fucking police box. Stop trying to make sense out of nonsense. You know, you're doing yourself a disservice. It makes so very little. This man fights concepts. He doesn't even fight like evil people. He fights concepts of reality at this point. What are you upset about? Stop trying so hard to be upset. Just say you hate your life and get over it. That's it.
I honestly think what's happened is a lot of people since COVID have been inside on Facebook, and with the Facebook algorithms, when you're given certain news stories which aren't news, but you're given certain stories, if you click on them and read through them, you will get given more stories of the same style. So someone's probably saw something. It's like the headline was, "Oh, have you heard Star Trek's going woke?" So someone's like, "Oh, Star Trek, I like that." They'll click on it, and it's a completely fluff piece about how they're giving too many black actors roles in an alien race, which can be whatever the hell they want. They're not even like English or like from Earth. But then they also then start getting more news and more feeds of other things, and before you know it, they have been bombarded after news item after news item after news item. So in their head, they just think, "Oh my God, this woke thing must be real because everything that I'm reading is all about this bloody woke."
This is my whole problem. This is my whole problem, and like this is me going on to a greater issue, but basically with this game, the thing I am noticing is there is a lot of racism within the nerd community, right? And I'm gonna say nerd. When I say nerd, that encompasses a lot of shit. I mean it. I want people to listen to me. I want people to take in what I'm saying. I'm not trying to like fluff it. And David, you might get in trouble for this because I ain't on here a lot. You're gonna have to deal with the backlash. But I'm gonna say this right now. The nerd community is racist as fuck. The nerd community is racist as fuck. And I say this because I grew up in the nerd community. I grew up as a little black kid in the nerd community. And I will say this now. You don't want us there. You act like we're all welcome. You will act like you want us there. You don't. You want us to be a performative piece. So people don't call you racist. So people don't call you anything else. But you don't actually want us in your spaces. And then when we make spaces for ourselves, when we say, well, this is a space purely for minority people or black people or Asian people or whatever, you get hurt. You're like, well, why is it just for you? Why can't I be in here? Because the last time we were in a space with you, you made us feel not welcome. Why would I let you in? You're not going to let someone into your house after they fucked up your house. That don't make sense. I say this wholeheartedly and I say it with all of my chest. Nerds either have to fix the racism problem in their fandoms and in their communities, or don't be surprised when black people don't fuck with you like that. When we don't talk to you like that, when we have our own little shit within your fandom that you don't know about, don't be upset. And that's not just black people, that's everybody. That's every other minority. Because I can tell you now, every single minority has a little group just for them within a fandom because they don't feel welcome or safe within that fandom. So nerds, either figure your shit out or don't be surprised when you get excluded or you get made fun of or people think that you are racist. Because as much as it is easy to say, oh well, it's not all of us, it's some of us. It's enough of you not doing it. It's the ones that don't do anything about it. I don't expect there to be no racists. I expect there to be more nerds doing something about it. Because you're more than willing to not have any minorities or black characters in your games or in your media because, well, that's just how Japan does it. Or that's just how that's just how this series has been done. But when a black character does enter that media or that book or that game or that series that you love, we don't see you defending it. all we see are the people bringing down either that character, that creator, or that person. Now, don't even get me started on like cosplay and shit. There's a whole reason I don't go to conventions anymore. I don't go to conventions anymore because fuck that space completely. Fuck that space completely. Cosplay, fuck it completely. Never in my life. Conventions, fuck them completely. Never in my life.
I was just freaked out with how sexualized the cosplay sort of stuff was.
Mm.
You know, it's like you have to be a young woman with tits and you have to be wearing next to nothing. And I was just like, that's a bit creepy.
You know what it is? My issue with cosplay is this, right? You have white people cosplaying Asian characters. And their excuse is, well, they look white.
Yeah.
And then you have black people cosplaying the same characters. And they'll be like, no, but you can't do that because the character isn't black. Motherfucker, the character doesn't exist. He's real. If a white person wants to, and the thing that always comes up is, oh, what if we cosplay Black Panther? Please go ahead. Go ahead. Do it. Do it.
I'll do it. We'll book some sort of convention somewhere, and I'll cosplay as Black Panther.
Like fucking go. Like this is the thing. It's cosplay. Be respectful. Do it. You're fine.
So would you say getting a bit of the shoe polish on the face, that's going a bit too far?
Absolutely. Yeah. No. Yeah. But this is what I'm saying, right? It's really easy because this is the thing. The thing that I always hear is, well, if we were to do this to black media or black characters, you would get upset, or to minority characters or whatever. And I'm saying, if you're respectful about it, we don't care. Genuinely, we don't give a fuck. Be respectful. I don't give a fuck what you do. But that's not what happens. You do it as a caricature or as a joke or as something to be made fun of. You do not do it in a way that is appreciative or taking inspiration from. Because that's not what you do. Because you want to be antagonistic. You want to piss people off. That's the main difference. That's why
I want to do that. I want to just piss everyone off.
But this is what I'm saying. Like, that's the main difference, right? So then, when these things come up, when these issues come up, white people are confused about why minorities and other like oppressed groups are so pissed off. It's because we just want to have fun in the space. And a lot of people don't want us there. So we make spaces for ourselves. You can get angry about that, but it doesn't change the fact that we're still here. Now, you can complain. Sure, go ahead, do your thing. I'm not going to give a fuck. Because purely and simply, this game is going to come out.
Maybe.
Assassin's Creed Shadow will come out.
Maybe.
It will have it's Ubisoft, so you never know. But it will have a black character in it. Now, you don't have to like that, but there's fuck all you can do about it.
Yeah.
I ain't telling you to play the game. You don't want to play it, don't play it, that's fine. But I will say this. If your only critique of a piece of media is the look of someone, then you're not paying attention to that piece of media enough. You don't have the media literacy to appreciate it, or you're too stupid to understand the deeper themes of the media you're watching. Or
I
another
do
point.
think a lot of the time it is people just too, I wouldn't even say too stupid, they're just so gullible in what they read and what they hear. But yes, I think we'll end it there. We've had a good 20-minute rant.
Yeah.
So
that brought back memories of the old times right there. That brought back memories of the old days.
What, 3 hours of just talking about shit?
Oh yeah. I had an hour run, and then everyone else had like a 2-hour run, and it was perfect.
So I will just sort of say thank you so much for coming back on. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Was the last time episode, was it 300?
Yep.
Or 350 maybe? It might have been 350.
I think so. It was the last. Yeah, it was the last big one. We need to. Well, like, I'm always gonna be around. So if you ever want me to, like,
I
jump
don't.
on,
It's nice to have someone to bounce off and to talk shit to.
I mean,
So,
I'm always around. And like, if you need more,
I'll keep you. The message is there. I'll keep messaging you, see what's happening.
Yeah.
So, do you have anything to plug? Do you do any other shows? Do you do any YouTube videos? Anything?
I don't have anything to plug. I only have one thing to say, and it will be my last thing to say, other than the outro. Concentrate on enjoying games. The gaming industry right now is in free fall. We need to be enjoying these games while we have them, because I can guarantee you, in 10 years, the industry is gonna look hella different. It's not gonna look the same. It's not gonna play the same. So enjoy this small little silver age that we're in, because soon we're gonna be in a dark age, and it's gonna be a bitch.
I think it's going to be interesting to see where we are in 5 years.
It's either going to be very interesting or incredibly depressing.
Even if it's depressing, it's still interesting to see how we get there.
Fair enough.
So
but that is my last word on the subject.
It's your last word, is it? So,
yeah.
One Up Gaming, episode 400. Please buy our books. We've got 3 books out now. There is the unofficial Sega Saturn collection, the unofficial Nintendo 64 collection, and the unofficial PlayStation collection. All books are available from Amazon, so go on there and just search and buy. So thank you so much, Eddie. It's been a delight. And I guess we'll
really
see
good.
each other again.
Yes, we will.
All right, then. I'll see you, and thank you so much for coming on.
All right, see ya.
See you, man.
Hi, I'm Lucy James, and I listen to the One Up Gaming podcast.
Hi, I'm Keith Allen, and I play Murphy on Z Nation, and I listen to One Up Gaming podcast.
So that was episode 400 of the One Up Gaming podcast. So thank you so much to our guests this week. So we had John Hare on. Love chatting to John. We have Pavel on from Cubic Games. We had Eddie on, that used to be a part of our team years and years ago, and we had little guests doing little bits. So Dave from Dave Chats Games, we had the Retro Asylum, we had Lee Chapman, who does the Lee and Peter bits that are on TikTok. We had Bob, who used to be a part of our team from 2013, I think it was. So thank you all so much for coming on. It's been David, One Up Gaming. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been an honour. 400 is a massive milestone for us. So please check out our website, which is oneupgaming.co.uk. Check out our reviews, our features, our bits and bobs. Go to our Etsy store, just search One Up Gaming. Go to our YouTube channel, like, subscribe, share, bell the icon, all that stuff. Really great. And if you're listening to us on a podcast, then please subscribe to us, give 5 stars, positive feedback, all that good stuff. And hopefully we can grow and keep going. So yeah, David here, One Up Gaming. Thank you so much to all of our guests. And it's been an absolute honour to chat to a lot of you today. So thank you. Goodbye.